Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend. Back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of Harem, son of 5th Devil King. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. You. The voice slithered through the darkness, cold and monstrous. It was a sound he had grown dreadfully accustomed to, a voice that gnawed at his core, unraveling him from within. Each time he heard it, it seemed to dig deeper, lingering in his mind like a curse. Everything around him was shrouded in a void, an abyss where no light could reach. That voice. There it is again. Where am I? It's so dark. Why can't I see anything? The boy muttered, his own voice barely audible against the oppressive weight of the silence surrounding him. Suddenly, the voice returned, louder, more insidious, like claws scraping against his consciousness. You've been living your entire life as a pathetic human. A cold chill ran down his spine, freezing him in place. The words cut into him, not just in their meaning but with a weight that felt ancient and terrifying. He tried to push back, to reject the voice's accusations, but the more he resisted, the heavier the darkness became. If you're truly a member of that forgotten bloodline, then you must awaken your true heritage. Forgotten bloodline. True heritage. He thought, his mind racing, trying to grasp what the voice was saying. The words made no sense, yet they stirred something inside him, a gnawing discomfort that he couldn't quite place. He felt a pull, as if something ancient and powerful was trying to surface within him. The voice growled, filled with malice, as it revealed more of the truth, one he hadn't wanted to face. His heart stopped for a moment, a cold sweat breaking out across his skin. What? Before he could process it, the world around him shifted, reality pulling him back as his eyes shot open wide. Gasping for air, the boy found himself staring at the back of a seat, an airplane tray table in front of him, and a small screen displaying the flight's in-flight entertainment options. For a moment, his surroundings felt surreal, as if they weren't real at all, but the soft glow of the cabin lights and the ambient hum of the plane's engines slowly grounded him. The dim lighting of the cabin revealed rows of seats filled with passengers, some asleep, their heads resting awkwardly against the headrests, while others mindlessly watched the screens in front of them. The boy blinked, still disoriented, his heartbeat gradually slowing as the remnants of the nightmare began to fade. He turned to his left, where the airplane window revealed a breathtaking view of the sky. The soft glow of the early sunrise painted the horizon in hues of pink, gold, and orange, casting a serene light over the clouds below. Still on the plane? He thought to himself, breathing out a shaky sigh of relief. He could hear the familiar hum of the plane's engines, the subtle turbulence gently rocking the cabin. The familiar sounds helped ease his nerves, but then, his hands, they wouldn't stop trembling. That nightmare again, he thought, his brows furrowing as he stared down at his hands. His fingers shook, betraying the calm he tried to force upon himself. Why does it keep happening? What does it even mean? He clenched his fists tightly, taking deep, steadying breaths. Slowly, the trembling subsided, but the feeling of unease lingered. He leaned back in his seat, running a hand through his messy hair as the last tendrils of the dream tugged at his mind. Dimon, how long was I out? Feeling the exhaustion creeping back in, he reached forward and tapped the small screen in front of him, bringing up the flight map. The display showed his current location, Boston, Massachusetts to Tokyo, Japan. Just 4 hours remained until they touched down in Japan, the local time reading 5:45 a.m. 4 more hours, he muttered to himself, blinking at the screen. I've been flying for almost 24 hours. A non-stop flight from Boston to Tokyo. What was I thinking? He sighed deeply, rubbing his temples in frustration. The thought of jet lag made his muscles ache already. When I get there, I'm gonna be dead tired. Jet lag's gonna hit me like a ton of bricks. He groaned, his head falling back against the headrest. As he stared up at the ceiling of the plane, a sense of disbelief washed over him. The world outside was about to change. Tokyo wasn't just a vacation destination, it was the beginning of something new, something bigger than he could comprehend. But that voice haunted him. It had to mean something. The nightmare, the talk of a forgotten bloodline, 𝕮𝒃𝒽𝒀. It all sounded like some bad fantasy story, but each time, it felt more real. His hands brushed his chest instinctively, as if trying to feel something underneath his skin. Awaken your true heritage, the words echoed in his mind, and though he couldn't grasp the full meaning, a part of him knew that whatever it was tied to him, his BLD, his very being. With another deep breath, he tried to relax, but sleep wouldn't come. The dream, the words, the voice, it all stayed with him, an ominous cloud looming over his thoughts. As the hours passed, he knew one thing for certain. Something was waiting for him in Tokyo. And whatever it was, it would change everything. I don't know what's coming, but... He clenched his fists, steeling his resolve. I'll be ready for it. That dream. What does it even mean? Why does it keep happening over and over again? He thought to himself, still shaken by the nightmare that had jolted him awake. His heart was still pounding in his chest, and no matter how much he tried to calm down, he knew sleep wasn't an option anymore. Not after that. So, instead of trying to force himself back into uneasy slumber, he decided to distract himself with something else. Maybe a movie or two, anything to keep his mind off the bizarre and unsettling dream. But enough about the nightmare. Let me introduce myself because you're probably wondering why a kid like me is flying solo from Boston all the way to Japan. Yeah, it's a long journey, basically halfway across the world, but there's a reason behind it. My name is Zayn 𝕮𝒃𝒽𝒊𝖆𝖐𝒗, though everyone calls me Zay for short. It's a nickname my family gave me, and honestly, it's kinda grown on me over the years. I'm 17 and a half years old, somewhere between 5 feet 5 inches and 5 feet 6 inches. I can never quite remember the exact number. But really, who cares about that, right? I'm just your average guy. I love music, video games, anime, and all the usual things people my age are into. Nothing too out of the ordinary. The thing that is out of the ordinary, though, is this trip. I'm heading to Japan, and here's the kicker. I'm going all by myself. No friends, no family, no siblings. Just me, myself, and I, flying across the globe. It's kind of crazy when I think about it, but there's something exciting about taking a leap into the unknown, right? So, why Japan? Good question. Well, during my last semester of high school, I found out I'd been accepted into a school there. But it's not just any school, it's a prestigious private academy. Sounds cool, right? I still can't quite believe it myself. The whole thing feels surreal. It all happened during the fall semester when we had one of those career and college fairs at school. I was going through the usual motions, applying to a bunch of colleges online just to get a head start, you know. Then, I came across this academy that was all the way across the world. I submitted my application, but I wasn't expecting anything to come from it. I mean, I didn't even think they'd consider me. So, I went through the whole process, did my SATs, wrote my college essay, filled out all the forms. Then, a month later, I got this email saying I'd been accepted to a place called Kuoh Academy. That's the one. It was the first school to actually respond to my application. Apparently, I passed not just with my SAT scores, but they liked my essay too. They told me I could start the next semester if I wanted. At first, I was skeptical. I mean, I'm still a junior in high school. I haven't even graduated yet. But they said if I did well during the spring semester, I could stay for the entire school year, maybe even longer. It still sounds crazy to me, a foreign kid from Boston, getting into a private school in Japan, all because of some college application I submitted on a whim. I thought it was a joke. But when I told my parents, they were completely shocked. My dad was the most excited. He kept saying it was like getting into Harvard or some other elite university. He even said it was like I'd hit the jackpot. Honestly, I guess I did. A kid like me, flying all the way to Japan for school. It still doesn't feel real. But here I am, on this plane, just 4 hours away from landing in Tokyo. Life's funny like that sometimes. Leaving home was tough though. Saying goodbye to my high school, my friends, my family, it felt like closing the chapter of one part of my life. But at the same time, it's like I'm opening a new one. A fresh start. This is only the second time I've ever left the continent. The first time was when I went to Norway to visit my uncle. I hadn't seen him in over 6 years. But this trip, this one feels bigger. A whole new country, a whole new culture. I'm nervous, sure, but more than anything, I'm excited. I'll get to meet new people, make new friends, experience things I never would have imagined back home. But I almost forgot what I was talking about. That nightmare. It's been happening more and more often lately, ever since I got accepted to Kuoh Academy. It's strange. It feels like a warning or maybe a message. The voice in the dream keeps talking about a sealed gear and a forgotten bloodline, but it's all so cryptic. I've tried talking to my parents about it, but they just brush it off as some weird recurring dream. Even my doctor didn't have much to say after I went to therapy. Nothing seems to help. Honestly, I don't know what any of it means. Maybe I'm going crazy. But I really hope it doesn't affect my future when I get to Japan. I'm trying to focus on the positives, the opportunities ahead. New school, new life, new people. Whatever that voice in my dreams is, I'll deal with it when the time comes. For now, I just want to enjoy the moment, well, as much as I can from 35,000 feet up in the air, anyway. 4 hours later, Zayn leaned back in his seat, eyes glued to the small screen in front of him, fully immersed in the Star Wars prequel trilogy. It had been his go-to distraction during the long flight, helping the hours pass by. The earbuds provided by the flight attendant weren't top quality, but they were good enough to let him enjoy the familiar dialogue and sound effects. On the screen, the tension built as young Anakin Skywalker stood before a group of wide-eyed younglings in the Jedi Temple. The scene zoomed in on one small boy, his face full of innocence, completely unaware of the danger looming before him. Mr. Skywalker, there's too many of them. What are we going to do? The youngling asked, his voice soft and trusting. Zayn smirked, unable to resist a grin. He's gonna face a tough situation, he muttered under his breath, chuckling to himself. Despite the grimness of the scene, it had become a meme over the years, and Zayn couldn't help but laugh at how it had been immortalized on the internet. He stretched his arms and shifted in his seat, trying to shake off the stiffness that had settled into his muscles after so many hours of sitting. The flight had been long, almost 24 hours in the air, and he was ready for it to end. Still, Star Wars had always been a favorite of his, and watching the prequels back-to-back was a solid way to pass the time. As the movie reached another intense moment, a loud beep echoed throughout the plane, interrupting the action. Zayn frowned as the screen froze, the movie suddenly pausing. A familiar chime followed, and the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. Attention, all passengers. Ladies and gentlemen, in a few minutes, the plane will be landing in Tokyo, Japan. Please remain seated and fasten your seatbelts as we prepare for landing. Zayn blinked, momentarily pulled out of his movie-watching trance. Finally, he thought with a sigh of relief. After nearly a full day of flying, the end of the journey was in sight. He stretched one last time before reaching down to fasten his seatbelt, feeling his body slowly unwind from the hours of stillness. Thank goodness. All these hours, and it's finally coming to an end, Zayn mused. His heart began to race, but it wasn't from nerves, it was pure excitement. The reality of the situation was finally hitting him. In just a few minutes, he would be landing in Japan. He glanced out the window beside him, his eyes widening at the sight. The early morning sun was just beginning to rise, casting a soft golden glow across the sky. Beneath the plane, the sprawling city of Tokyo stretched out in all directions, the lights and buildings gradually coming into view as the plane descended through the clouds. Here I come, Japan, Zayn thought, a small smile tugging at his lips. His fingers drummed lightly on the armrest, his excitement building with every passing moment. This wasn't just another trip. This was the start of a brand new chapter in his life. A fresh beginning, filled with unknown possibilities and new adventures waiting to unfold. The past few months had been a whirlwind. From getting accepted into Kuoh Academy to booking this flight and saying goodbye to his friends and family, everything had moved so fast. It still didn't feel entirely real. Zayn, a kid from Boston, was about to attend a prestigious academy in Japan. It was surreal. The plane continued its slow descent, and Zayn's thoughts drifted to the journey that had brought him here. He'd always been one to chase new opportunities, but this. This was on a completely different level. A new country, new people, a new life. It was overwhelming, but in the best possible way. However, beneath the excitement, there was a lingering unease. That dream, the one that had haunted him in the weeks leading up to this trip, nagged at the back of his mind. The cryptic voice talking about a forgotten bloodline, a sealed gear. He still didn't understand what it all meant, but it felt important somehow. Like a puzzle he hadn't yet figured out. He shook his head, pushing the thought aside for now. I'll deal with it when the time comes, he reassured himself. Right now, all he needed to focus on was landing in Japan and making it through customs. The plane touched down with a gentle thud, the wheels skidding across the runway. A rush of excitement surged through Zayn as he felt the plane slow to a stop. He was really here. As the plane taxied to the gate, Zayn sat back in his seat, staring out the window at the Tokyo skyline. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning of a new adventure. Japan, here I am. 𝕁𝖊𝖉𝖉𝖚𝖐 is a relaxed and easygoing individual who enjoys music, video games, and unwinding whenever he can. Despite his laid-back demeanor, Zayn has a stubborn and reckless side, especially when his emotions or sense of justice are provoked. He often acts without fully considering the consequences, driven by a deep longing to protect those he cares about. After becoming a devil, Zayn's curiosity about his true identity intensified. He is determined to uncover the secrets of his lineage, a family of devils once feared as God's greatest enemies, and understand the obsidian black dragon sealed within his sacred gear. As the wielder of the dread-winged overlord, Zayn shoulders immense responsibility and has vowed to honor the trust of those who stand by him, ensuring their safety at all costs. In a shocking revelation, it is discovered that Zayn is the direct descendant of the long-forgotten fifth devil king, 𝕯𝖊𝖆𝖉𝖚, the very devil who played a significant role in the Great War. The 𝕯𝖊𝖆's name, erased from history, was once synonymous with destruction and chaos. His demonic bloodline, believed to have perished centuries ago, has instead survived in secrecy, culminating in Zayn's awakening. This revelation marks him as the heir to a forbidden power, one that could either reshape the underworld or plunge it into chaos once more. However, his bloodline carries a dark and insidious legacy. A cold-hearted, chaotic, and ruthless nature lurks within him, emerging without warning in moments of turmoil. Though Zayn remains unaware of the growing influence, those around him fear he is slowly succumbing to the chaotic heritage festering within. Despite his awkwardness, shyness, and self-doubt, Zayn remains resilient. His loyalty and determination define him far more than his ancestry or power ever could, even as he fights to keep the darkness within at bay. Zayn's counterparts include 𝕁𝖊𝖉𝖚𝖚𝖚, who shares similar traits and struggles, existing in a different universe. There is also a mysterious individual who may be another counterpart from a different anime world, suggesting that the 𝕁𝖊𝖉𝖚 family might exist across multiple universes, each version shaped by the world they were born into. 𝕯𝖊𝖆𝖚, the fifth original Devil King, is a figure whose impact on history remains undeniable, despite his name being erased. Known as God's greatest enemy, he was the one who confronted the God of the Bible, forever branding him as heaven's most feared adversary. His legacy is marked by titles such as the Black Star of the Underworld and the Harbinger of Chaos and Calamity, reflecting the destruction and chaos that followed him. 𝕯𝖊𝖆𝖚 is remembered as an anomaly, a being whose power and existence were considered unnatural, leaving a lasting mark on the underworld and beyond. His BGMI was seen as a cosmic mistake, an abomination that defied both fate and divine will. He that shall not be named. So terrifying was his rule that even speaking his name was once considered a death sentence. To many, 𝕯𝖊𝖆𝖚's name carries a curse, and among certain circles he is only referred to in riddles or coded language, his legacy so fearsome that it lingers even after his erasure from history. 𝕯𝖊𝖆𝖚 was the fifth original Devil King, yet unlike Lucifer, Beelzebub, Leviathan, and Asmodeus, his name was erased from existence. While the other four Satans ruled through hierarchy and control, 𝕯𝖊𝖆𝖚 embodied absolute chaos and destruction. His mere existence defied order, making him a figure of fear, mystery, and legend. Unlike his counterparts, Diablos operated from the shadows, wielding a power so unpredictable that even the strongest devils feared to speak his name. His presence was an omen of catastrophe, warping reality itself. To many, he was the harbinger of chaos and calamity, believing that order bred stagnation and that only through destruction could beings attain true freedom. Diablos was not simply a being of destruction. He was a radical thinker, a devil who rejected order itself. He believed that stability bred stagnation and that the natural order of the universe was flawed. To him, all rulers, whether god, devil, or king, were mere illusions of control, shackling the world in chains of false balance. He viewed destruction not as an act of malice, but as the ultimate form of liberation, a means to free existence from its limitations. Unlike the four Satans who ruled through structured demps, Diablos saw leadership as a weakness. He argued that true power came from chaos, where the strong thrived and the weak perished. His followers saw him as a force of revolution, while his enemies feared him as a monster beyond reason. His very existence was a contradiction to the laws of both heaven and hell. Diablos's greatest rival was Lucifer, the first devil king. While Lucifer sought to build an empire, Diablos sought to tear it down. Their conflict was more than just a battle of strength, it was a war of philosophies. Lucifer believed that the devils needed structure, hierarchy, and order to thrive, while Diablos viewed such systems as inherently flawed. Their clashes were legendary, shaking the very foundation of the underworld. Lucifer, despite his power, was never able to completely control or destroy Diablos. Even the mightiest devils feared his unpredictable nature. Where Lucifer sought to conquer, Diablos sought to undo everything. It was said that if Diablos had won, there would be no kings, no thrones, and no rulers, only pure, unrestrained chaos. During the Great War, Diablos fought for no one but himself. He was an unstoppable force, challenging angels, fallen angels, and even devils who stood against him. The battlefields turned to wastelands in his wake, and neither side could predict his actions. Some believed he aimed to end the war through destruction, proving that no ruler, god, devil, or king could control fate. But his most infamous act, the one that cemented his legend, was the slaying of the God of the Bible. In an unprecedented moment, Diablos struck down the divine entity, bringing calamity to heaven itself. The celestial balance collapsed, angels lost their guiding force, and all realms plunged into chaos. He was forever branded as God's greatest enemy, and the devil who killed God. However, his overwhelming power made him the target of all factions. In the end, the strongest warriors from heaven, hell, and earth joined forces to defeat him. After his fall, his name was erased from history, ensuring that his ideology of chaos would never spread again. Before his defeat, Diablos crafted a weapon of unspeakable power, the Dreadwing armament. Unlike God's sacred gears, this weapon was forged by Diablos himself, designed to channel absolute destruction. With it, he sealed away the obsidian black dragon, a primordial force of devastation and one of 𝕨𝒽𝒃's offspring. This dragon was feared by even the most powerful devils, and its essence remains locked within the Dreadwing armament, waiting for the day when the seal is broken and chaos returns. Though history has tried to erase him, whispers of Diablos still haunt the underworld. Some believe his influence still lingers, waiting for the right moment to resurface. Others fear that the Dreadwing armament will one day fall into the wrong hands, unleashing both Diablos's will and the obsidian black dragon upon the world once more. To many, he is the one who should have never been born, a walking anomaly in creation. Even now, there are those who dare not speak his name, referring to him only as he that shall not be named. If Diablos returns, there will be no kings, no gods, and no rulers. Zayn faces severe physical strain if he pushes himself beyond his limits, suffering significant BLD loss and potentially reverting to a vulnerable state, leaving him defenseless. If he gives in to his rage, the black dragon feeds on his emotions, pushing him toward insanity. Relying on this power too much corrupts his mind, making him uncontrollable and more violent. The worst-case scenario. a berserk state that could lead to his juggernaut drive transformation, turning him into a mindless force of destruction. Zayn's heritage makes him feared and distrusted by many devils, angels, and fallen angels. Some see him as a threat, believing he should be eliminated before he grows too powerful. Various factions view him as a target, either wanting to control or destroy him due to his bloodline and abilities. Despite his power, Zayn struggles with self-doubt. He fears letting others down, especially those who believe in him the most. This fear can paralyze him in crucial moments, causing hesitation. He worries that if he makes a mistake, people might hate him, or worse, suffer because of him. Despite his overwhelming strength and confidence, Zayn's biggest weakness is his awkwardness around women. While he can stand toe-to-toe with the strongest devils, angels, and dragons, he becomes flustered when faced with flirtation or teasing. If a woman gets too close or playfully teases him, he freezes up, sometimes even losing focus in battle. Zayn's magic circle, a legacy passed down from Diablos, far surpasses standard devil portals. Unlike others, it allows him to teleport not just himself but anyone. Devils, angels, fallen angels, or even humans. This unparalleled versatility hints at his extraordinary lineage and the power he has inherited. More than just teleportation, Zayn's magic can wield destructive energy akin to Diablos, so powerful that even Satan himself couldn't control it. Due to its unstable nature, Zayn strictly limits its use to teleportation, ensuring he doesn't lose control. Even among the strongest devils, his magic remains an anomaly, feared for its limitless potential. 𝒮𝒽𝒽𝒁 is Zayn's Digimon partner and familiar, a bond strengthened by the fact that 𝒮𝒽𝒁 was Zayn's favorite Digimon as a child. Despite his darker appearance, 𝒮𝒽𝒁 retains the curious and playful personality of his anime counterpart. Unlike other familiars, 𝒮𝒽𝒁 does not disappear when dismissed, he always remains by Zayn's side. Whether in battle or daily life, his unwavering presence serves as a reminder of their deep connection. When Zayn is in danger, 𝒮𝒽's protective instincts awaken, transforming him into a fierce guardian. At times, his emotions sync with Zayn's anger and despair, darkening his aura and sharpening his instincts. If pushed too far, his power spirals out of control, leading to his most dangerous forms. Influenced by Zayn's sacred gear, 𝒮𝒽's design has darkened into black and red. In battle, he can digivolve into Black Growlmon and further into Wargrowlmon, making him both a loyal companion and a formidable force. However, if his rage consumes him, he transforms into Megadramon, a chaotic force of destruction. In rare cases, when his will is strong enough to control this power, he can ascend to Chaos Gallantmon, a dark knight embodying both chaos and order. These final forms make 𒮮𝒽𝒁 an unstoppable force, but also a dangerous one that Zayn must be careful not to unleash without reason. 𝒮𝒽's attacks include Pyrosphere, a powerful fireball that delivers impressive force and accuracy, and Fire Rockbreaker, which uses his sharp, fiery claws for decisive strikes. As Growlmon, he can unleash a more powerful blast called Pyroblaster and generate plasma energy for slashing attacks. Wargrowlmon can deliver swift strikes with double blades and fire a devastating energy blast known as Atomic Blaster. Megadramon can release a powerful shockwave with Dragon Howling and unleash Hellfire with Megiddo Flame. Chaos Gallantmon can unleash a barrage of strikes with Demon's Disaster and fire a dark energy wave with Chaos Crusher. Zayn's rivals include 𝕮𝒃, who sees Zayn as both a comrade and a friendly rival, pushing each other to improve. However, 𝕮𝒃 resents Zayn for stealing his spotlight. 𝕮𝒊𝒉𝖆𝖆, a descendant of a notorious original Devil King, views Zayn as a worthy opponent due to their shared lineage and immense power. 𝒮𝒾𝑔𝒽 despises Zayn for his hybrid nature and is determined to defeat him, believing that sacred gears should only be wielded by humans. Surzex Lucifer and Archangel Michael monitor Zayn carefully, fearing he could become a threat to both the underworld and heaven. An unknown adversary looms in the shadows, possessing the other half of the Dreadwing Overlord's power, a second offspring of Trihexia. If this entity truly exists, it would be Zayn's ultimate rival, a being that mirrors his own strength and destructive potential. Their inevitable clash could determine the fate of the world itself. The Dreadwing armament is a long-forgotten Longinus-class sacred gear, erased from history and buried beneath myth and fear. Unlike any other sacred gear, it was not crafted by the god of the Bible but by Diablos himself, making it the first artificial Longinus, a weapon that defied divinity itself. Despite its unnatural origins, its raw destructive and chaotic power rivaled even the most legendary divine creations, earning it the title of a Longinus-class anomaly. Diablos created the Dreadwing armament to entrap and seal the Black Archfiend Dragon and to slay the god of the Bible. At its core slumbers the Black Archfiend Dragon, a primordial entity of chaos and devastation, whose very existence warps reality. Rather than allowing such a force to roam free, Diablos imprisoned the dragon within the Dreadwing armament, binding its limitless power to a vessel only he could wield. However, this was only part of his plan. The true purpose of the weapon was to bring death to the divine. Wielding its unparalleled might, Diablos used the Dreadwing armament to strike down the god of the Bible, an act that shattered the celestial balance and plunged heaven into ruin. This weapon was not merely designed for war. It was a god-slayer, forged with the sole purpose of eradicating heaven's highest authority. The world has tried to erase its memory, reducing its existence to fragments of myth and whispers of terror. Now, 𝕁 has become its second wielder, awakening a power feared by gods, devils, and dragons alike. But the Dreadwing armament is not just a weapon, it is a curse. Each time Zayn wields it, the line between man and monster begins to blur, threatening to consume him in the same chaotic abyss that once made Diablos a legend of destruction. Destruction grants Zayn the power to unleash absolute devastation. Every 15 seconds, he charges an immense blast of chaotic energy, growing stronger with time. When released, it can annihilate entire landscapes in a single cataclysmic shot. However, this power isn't limited to ranged attacks. Zayn can channel destruction into his gauntlet, turning his fists into weapons of carnage. Each strike carries the essence of obliteration, capable of shattering defenses and reducing foes to dust. A single blow is enough to fracture the earth and send shockwaves across the battlefield, leaving only ruin in his wake. Obliteration grants Zayn the ability to unleash multiple homing projectiles simultaneously, each one locked onto its target with deadly precision. Unlike the raw, singular might of destruction, these projectiles strike faster and more relentlessly, ensuring that nowhere is safe. Though each blast deals less damage individually, their sheer speed, accuracy, and overwhelming volume make them perfect for breaking defenses, overwhelming enemies, and forcing them into SBMSN. Once released, there is no escape. Each shot hunts its prey with merciless efficiency, ensuring that the battlefield becomes a storm of destruction. Annihilation allows Zayn to unleash devastating high-speed slashes, each infused with raw draconic energy. His claws can tear through nearly anything, effortlessly ripping apart armor, barriers, and even reality itself. With a single swipe, he can launch razor-sharp energy waves from a distance, cutting down foes before they can even react. This technique is so powerful it can slice through dimensions, shatter magical seals, and disrupt teleportation spells, ensuring no enemy can escape. Combining relentless melee attacks with precise long-range devastation, Annihilation guarantees that once Zayn strikes, nothing survives. Corruption allows Zayn to absorb and manipulate enemy attacks, turning their power against them. He can consume fire-based attacks, using them to heal himself or unleash them back with twice the strength. He can also absorb demonic, holy, and elemental magic, converting it into raw energy to fuel his abilities. However, absorbing too much unstable energy overloads his body, forcing him to release it before it becomes harmful. Corruption nullifies, stores, and amplifies attacks, ensuring that no power can be used against him without consequence. Second stage, Dreadwing Tyrant, Apex of Calamity is the second evolution of Zayn's Sacred Gear Gauntlet, an awakened manifestation of the Archfield Dragon's true power. In this form, the gauntlet transforms into a sleek yet menacing black design, adorned with jagged crimson patterns and a glowing, pulsating core, a wellspring of raw, destructive energy. This form grants Zayn dragon wings and a tail, vastly increasing his speed, agility, and aerial combat prowess. He gains control over the Archfield Dragon's black flames and demonic thunder, flames that consume everything, reducing even matter to void, and thunder that strikes with overwhelming ferocity, tearing through defenses with absolute force. These abilities make Zayn an unstoppable force on the battlefield. However, this power comes at a cost. Prolonged use leads to severe BLD loss, pushing his body to its breaking point. If overused, he risks reverting to his human state, leaving him defenseless. This forces Zayn to walk a dangerous line between limitless destruction and self-preservation, ensuring that every moment in this form is a battle against both his enemies and his own limits. Ignition allows Zayn to continuously amplify the temperature and intensity of his flames every 10 seconds. The longer they burn, the more powerful and devastating they become, reaching levels capable of incinerating nearly anything in existence. These are no ordinary flames. Zayn's black and crimson fire is pure, chaotic annihilation, infused with destructive energy. They burn through holy, demonic, and even divine defenses, making them nearly impossible to extinguish. As Zayn's ignition, he can also wield unholy black thunder, generating shockwaves upon impact and creating massive craters, ensuring that his enemies are reduced to nothing but ash and ruin. Incineration is Zayn's ultimate burst of power, where he unleashes every ounce of his flames into a cataclysmic eruption of black flames. The resulting explosion scorches the battlefield, sending waves of destruction that engulf everything in an uncontrollable inferno. These flames are extraordinary. They burn through holy, demonic, and even divine defenses, ensuring that nothing escapes their wrath. Zayn can amplify this devastation by combining incineration with destruction, releasing all his flames at once to create a supernova of annihilation. However, this comes at a steep cost. Once used, Zayn is completely drained, left with no stamina or magic power, making him vulnerable after the attack. Combustion allows Zayn to engulf his entire body in black and red flames, forming a shield that burns, devours magic, and nullifies spells. This living inferno not only protects him from attacks but also absorbs magical energy, turning enemy spells into fuel for his own power. When combined with ignition, his body temperature rises every 15 seconds, reaching such extreme heat that touching him results in burns. The superheated battlefield weakens opponents, while prolonged exposure to his flames corrupts and breaks down anything caught in their reach. However, overuse of combustion rapidly drains Zayn's stamina, and if pushed too far, it leaves him exhausted and vulnerable, forcing him to balance power and endurance carefully. Deception allows Zayn to summon the Oblivion Blade of Crimson Deception, a weapon forged from the flesh and bone of the Archfield Dragon. It was created as the exact opposite of all that is holy, designed to counter and surpass divine swords. Once wielded by a powerful entity during a great conflict, it is feared by both gods and devils alike. The sword grants absolute erasure, allowing Zayn to cut through divine protection, weaken immortals, and nullify celestial defenses. Upon activation, it ignites in black and crimson flames, scorching divine beings and obliterating holy constructs. When fully unleashed, a single slash distorts space and time, cementing it as one of the most dangerous weapons ever forged. However, this power comes at a price. The more Zayn wields the Oblivion Blade, the more it drains his stamina and magical reserves. Its overwhelming destruction pushes him to his limits, forcing him to use it wisely, lest he be left completely exhausted and vulnerable. The entity within Zayn's sacred gear is the Black Archfield Dragon, the dread-winged overlord, a force of pure chaos and annihilation. Sealed within Zayn's sacred gear by his ancestor before the ancient three-way war, its presence alone strikes fear into angels, devils, fallen angels, and even the gods themselves. Its unmatched power cements its place as one of the most terrifying forces in existence. Unlike most dragons, the Archfiend Dragon does not seek unity with its counterpart, it seeks to eradicate it. Consumed by pride and an insatiable thirst for demps, it views the other offspring of 𝕨𝐻𝒾𝒽 as a rival to be destroyed. To the Archfiend Dragon, only one half can inherit Trihex's legacy, and it will stop at nothing to claim absolute supremacy through destruction. What makes this dragon even more horrifying is its ability to shift forms at will. It can transform from a majestic, godlike dragon into a monstrous, demonic incarnation, amplifying its raw destructive potential beyond anything the world has seen. At its peak, it surpasses even the heavenly twin dragons, standing as an entity beyond conventional power scales. As one of Trihex's two children, the Archfiend Dragon is a harbinger of extinction, driven by a singular, relentless purpose: to eliminate its counterpart and plunge creation into chaos. Its insatiable hunger for depths threatens to shatter the balance of all realms, making it a nightmare feared even by the gods themselves. Its very existence challenges the fabric of reality, and should it ever be unleashed, nothing will be left untouched by its wrath. The Inferno Dreadwing armor of unholy wrath is the balance breaker of Zayn's sacred gear, unleashing the full destructive force of the Archfiend Dragon. In this state, Zayn dons armor forged from the dragon scales, its obsidian-black plating pulsing with crimson veins of chaotic energy. Unlike traditional balance breakers, this form has no limits or countdowns, granting Zayn unrestricted, unparalleled power. The armor grants razor-sharp wings for high-speed flight, while his clawed gauntlets and draconic tail enhance his agility and combat prowess. He wields the Sword of Crimson Deception, a blade crafted from the fang of the Archfiend Dragon, capable of cutting through divine protections and rivaling legendary holy swords. Unlike most weapons, Zayn can summon it independently of his balance breaker. However, this power comes at a terrible cost. The Inferno armor does not just enhance Zayn, it consumes him. The longer he fights in this form, the more his rage and thirst for destruction intensify, gradually stripping away his morality and restraint. His movements become feral and uncontrollable, and as the battle continues, the armor itself mutates, growing sharper and more rigid, resembling a living entity of carnage. Zayn pays a devastating price for wielding this power. Every activation of his balance breaker shaves years off his lifespan, depending on how much power he exerts. Even Diablos himself refused to use his own balance breaker, believing it pointless in the face of his raw might. This transformation mirrors other legendary figures, amplifying Zayn's power while eroding his sanity and humanity. If he overextends, the armor evolves into its juggernaut drive, where unrestrained chaos consumes all. For this reason, Zayn invokes the Inferno armor only as a last resort, knowing that while it grants him godlike strength, it comes at the inevitable cost of his own existence. When Zayn activates his balance breaker, he transcends the restrictions of ordinary sacred gears. Unlike other wielders, he has no countdown, no limits, and no restrictions. Every ability and ounce of power is fully unleashed without any drawback. His rage fuels his transformation, allowing him to fight without restraint. In his raging balance breaker, Zayn achieves instant regeneration. Limbs severed, dismembered, burned. It doesn't matter, his body instantly rebuilds itself, as if wounds never existed. His rage overrides pain itself, making him completely immune to suffering. No injury slows him down, and no force can stop him unless he is utterly obliterated in a single instant. A fusion of destruction, ignition, and incineration, the devastation blast channels Zayn's rage-fueled chaos into a concentrated supernova of energy. Charging from the mouth of his helmet, this colossal blast tears through time, space, and dimensions alike, obliterating everything in its path. Anything caught in its wake is reduced to nothingness. Zayn's wings sharpen into deadly, WHP-like blades, slicing through everything at impossible speeds. Infused with ignition, these burning blades sever through enemies and barriers, leaving behind scorching wounds that refuse to heal. Additionally, the flames nullify all forms of magic, rendering spellcasters helpless. Zayn's dragon shout unleashes a cataclysmic shockwave, amplifying ignition and combustion, setting the entire battlefield ablaze. His dragon aura radiates the sheer presence of the black dragon itself, causing weaker beings to collapse in terror. Even hardened warriors struggle to withstand the oppressive malice of his awakened form. Zayn's juggernaut drive, the ultimate manifestation of destruction, is born from complete surrender to rage and despair. In this state, the archfiend dragon fully awakens, breaking the seals that once bound it, allowing it to completely take over his body and mind. The inferno armor of the abyss mutates into something even larger and more monstrous. Its obsidian plating, streaked with chaotic crimson energy, warps and pulsates like a living embodiment of destruction. His sword of crimson deception evolves into the eclipsing blade of calamitous extinction, a weapon that disrupts space, time, and reality itself with every swing. No longer a mere warrior, Zayn becomes the archfiend dragon incarnate, an avatar of pure, uncontrolled annihilation. Despite being an artificial sacred gear, the Dreadwing armament possesses enough raw power to access Juggernaut Drive, an ability normally exclusive to divine creations. Diablos, the Devil King who forged this weapon and sealed the Black Dragon, never lost control. He wielded the same form to bring heaven to ruin. Unlike Zayn, Diablos could handle its overwhelming power, retaining his mind and will even in this apocalyptic form. Zayn, however, is different. His transformation is fueled purely by rage and despair, meaning he does not merely lose control, he ceases to exist entirely. The archfiend dragon fully awakens, seizing his body and mind, breaking free from its chains. Once unleashed, this is no longer Zayn fighting, it is the Black Dragon itself, a force of absolute annihilation. In this form, Zayn's power reaches unthinkable levels, capable of shattering worlds, collapsing dimensions, and erasing existence itself. The sheer force of his attacks tears apart the fabric of reality, leaving nothing but void and devastation. But the price is catastrophic. Each second spent in Juggernaut Drive drains Zayn's life force, pushing him closer to permanent destruction. Unlike Balance Breaker, which only shaves away years of his lifespan, Juggernaut Drive devours his very existence. This is not just a transformation, it is a curse, a harbinger of absolute ruin, feared by all who witness it. His roar in this form is a weapon in itself, unleashing a massive wave of destructive energy capable of leveling entire landscapes and shattering defenses. The sheer force of the roar causes earthquakes that ripple across the battlefield, toppling mountains and tearing the ground apart. As his voice echoes, the atmosphere around him is shrouded in impenetrable darkness, extinguishing all light and plunging the area into chaos. The roar also amplifies his black flames and demonic thunder, creating an apocalyptic storm of fire, lightning, and destruction. Zayn's very presence exudes a suffocating aura of despair and fear, emanating the overwhelming malice of the archfiend dragon. Weaker opponents are paralyzed with terror, unable to move or think clearly, while even stronger foes find their powers suppressed and their resolve wavering. The aura warps the battlefield itself, shrouding it in oppressive darkness and chaotic energy, making coordination and focus nearly impossible for his enemies. It drains the will to fight, leaving his opponents vulnerable to his devastating attacks and cementing his demps. Zayn's wings grant him incredible speed and maneuverability in flight, leaving behind trails of fire and destruction. The wings generate intense heat, scorching the air around them and creating a fiery vortex that incinerates anything caught in their wake. The razor-sharp edges can be used offensively, slicing through enemies or unleashing waves of fire and explosive energy, turning the battlefield into a fiery inferno. An apocalyptic surge of destruction, Extinction Blast of Oblivion is the ultimate evolution of Devastation Blast, a technique so devastating it transcends mere destruction. In Raging Balance Breaker, it manifests as a controlled yet overwhelming wave of annihilation, combining black flames, demonic thunder, and void claw energy to incinerate, disintegrate, and erase all in its path. However, in Juggernaut Drive, it becomes a force of absolute extinction. This is a cosmic supernova of black hellfire that devours existence, demonic thunder that fractures reality, and void claw energy that rips through space, time, and magic itself. The sheer impact warps dimensions, shatters celestial bodies, and erases entire landscapes, leaving behind only an empty void where existence once stood. Once unleashed, there is no counter, no escape, only the promise of absolute oblivion. Zayn's ultimate attack in Juggernaut Drive, Eternal Cataclysm, is a single apocalyptic slash that fuses destruction, obliteration, annihilation, ignition, and incineration into a singular, all-consuming strike. This technique is not just an attack. It is the end of all realms, the death of creation itself. As Zayn channels the full, unrestrained might of the archfiend dragon, his blade becomes wreathed in black flames that devour existence, demonic thunder that shatters dimensions, and void claw energy that tears through fate itself. The skies tremble, the earth fractures, and reality itself begins to warp beneath the weight of his fury. When unleashed, Eternal Cataclysm does not simply destroy, it erases all that stands before it, reducing matter, magic, time, and existence itself to absolute nothingness. A single swing marks the end, leaving behind a vast, endless void where reality once stood, a testament to the wrath of the archfiend dragon's chosen wielder. Zayn, I, who stand at the edge of oblivion, summon the flames of ruin and the shadows of despair. I am the scourge that devours hope, the dragon that heralds eternal night. Black Dragon, the sun shall turn to darkness, the moon into BLD, before the great and terrible day. So I proclaim the end of all light. Diablos, and lo, the heavens shall break, the throne of God shall crumble, for I have struck down the divine, and I have become the storm that drowns worlds. Zayn, with wings of calamity and flames that burn reality, I shall be the judgment that shatters worlds. And the stars of heaven shall fall, as the skies roll up like a scroll. The archfiend dragon, the dread-winged overlord, awakens to reclaim his throne. Diablos, I, the harbinger of God's downfall, the fiend who laid heaven to ruin, declare this truth: there is no salvation, only the inevitable embrace of the void. Black Dragon, I, offspring of 𝕮𝒃𝒽, imperial beast of the apocalypse, shall devour the infinite and shatter the dream. Through chaos, through death, I offer my very existence to become one with the darkness that devours all. Zayn, as the Black Dragon, declared, Behold, I bring ruin upon the earth, a destruction none shall escape. Let the void tremble, let light perish, for I shall deliver the final silence. Zayn's final and true form emerged, Archfiend Imperial Omega Ascension. Through an unbreakable bond with the Archfiend Dragon, Zayn 𝕮𝒃𝒽𝒊𝖗𝒆 transcended all mortal and divine limits, awakening a form that even Diablos himself never attained. Unlike Juggernaut Drive, born from rage and chaos, this transformation was forged from mastery, unity, and the complete fusion of soul and dragon. No longer a prisoner of destruction, Zayn had conquered his own fate, wielding absolute control over his existence, rising beyond devils, dragons, and even gods themselves. His very presence warped reality, existing as a cosmic force that balanced chaos and order with an authority unseen in the supernatural realm. His inferno armor underwent its final evolution, transforming into a divine yet ominous black and crimson exoskeleton, pulsing with an energy that defied all known laws of existence. His wings burned with imperial black and crimson fire, stretching across dimensions, each movement sending shockwaves that shook the fabric of time itself. His horned crown radiated ancient power, and his eyes blazed with an eternal inferno, reflecting a will that no being, god or devil, could ever break. The Oblivion Blade of Crimson Deception, once forged by Diablos, ascended beyond its original state, reborn as the eternal blade of Omega Eradication, a cosmic sword capable of distorting time, space, and causality itself with each swing. No longer a mere instrument of destruction, this weapon held the power to reshape existence, commanding forces beyond mortal comprehension. With this form, Zayn was no longer simply a destroyer, nor a savior. He was the embodiment of balance itself, standing beyond fate, beyond gods and kings, achieving what even Diablos, the slayer of heaven, never could. Archfiend Imperial Omega Ascension, Supreme Abilities and Techniques Genesis Flame. The fire of creation. Zayn's flames transcended destruction, now capable of creating existence itself. Forms celestial bodies, realms, and dimensions at will. Reshapes destroyed matter, bringing back what was lost. Can forge divine artifacts imbued with cosmic energy. Bears new life from pure energy, defying the laws of nature. Divine restoration, the healing of worlds. Zayn attain the ability to restore existence itself, wielding a power that even gods fear and covet. Heals wounds that even immortals cannot regenerate. Erases corruption, reversing curses and eldritch horrors. Restores souls lost to oblivion, resurrecting those erased from time. Can mend entire planets, dimensions, and cosmic structures. Reversion, the turning of time no longer constrained by linear time. Zayn can alter the past, present, and future at will. Rewinds damage to himself, allies, or entire realities. Nullifies any attack by reversing its effects before impact. Restores shattered timelines, stabilizing fate. Prevents future calamities by negating events before they manifest. Radiant extinction, cosmic light of judgment, a technique that embodies creation, salvation, and destruction in a single, absolute force. Erases impure entities while restoring all that was meant to exist. Unleashes a cataclysmic blast of rebirth and annihilation. Nullifies divine laws, rewriting reality itself. Ensures balance between destruction and renewal, an inescapable fate for all. Eternal incarnation, the ascended form. Zayn is no longer merely a being of power. He is a concept incarnate, an entity beyond classification. Cannot be erased, slain, or sealed, as he exists beyond conventional reality. Can manifest in multiple planes, existing across time, space, and dimensions simultaneously. Reforms his body instantly, even if reduced to absolute nothingness. Becomes the living embodiment of equilibrium, an everlasting force of balance. Omega incineration, flames of absolute erasure. Zayn's flames evolved into black and golden cosmic hellfire, a force that does not just burn, it erases existence at its core. Burns through holy, demonic, and even divine protections with ease. Eradicates immortal beings and conceptual entities. Incinerates matter, energy, time, and the very essence of existence itself. Forms an apocalyptic storm of destruction, engulfing entire realms within moments. Oblivion Edge, the slash that ends reality with the eternal blade of Omega eradication. Zayn wields Oblivion Edge, a strike that severs the fabric of reality itself. Erases beings, objects, and entire dimensions from existence. Counters and negates any attack, even divine strikes. Distorts time and space, creating paradoxes where his enemies never existed. Severs fate and destiny, allowing Zayn to rewrite the very structure of reality. He is the inevitable, the Genesis and the Omega. The final balance, the sovereign of creation and destruction. Unlike his past transformations, which threatened to consume his soul, Zayn has surpassed all limitations. He is no longer a mere heir of Diablos, nor a vessel of the archfiend Dragon's will. He is 𝕮𝒃𝒽𝒊𝖆𝖐, the archfiend imperial Omega sovereign, the absolute balance between chaos and order. He does not merely destroy, he creates, reshapes, and dictates the very fabric of existence itself. This is not just a new form, it is a new destiny, a new law that surpasses gods, dragons, and devils alike. In this state, Zayn is unrivaled, standing at the pinnacle of all existence, the being who can erase, rebuild, and dictate the fate of all creation. The chanting echoes around him, chant of the supreme sentinel archfiend Imperial Omega Ascension. Zayn's voice roars like a celestial storm, shaking both heavens and void. I, who stand beyond the veil of creation and oblivion, call upon the flames of Genesis and the light of restoration. I am the inferno that consumes fear, the dragon that shatters the chains of fate. Ancient voices echo from the abyss of time, enigmatic and transcendent. He is the storm and the stillness, the fire and the void. Not merely destruction, nor salvation, he is the embodiment of both. The black dragon speaks, its voice deep and resonant. I am the night that swallows the stars, the void born of chaos. I am the eternal wound that heals the cosmos, the shadow that reforges light. In my embrace, worlds are born, then reduced to ash, for I am the force that rewrites destiny. Zayn feels power surging, reality bending beneath his ascent, the cosmos trembling with his decree. But for those who fear my name, the Sun of Righteousness shall rise with healing in 𝕮𝑗𝑔𝒽 wings. So I declare the return of all light and the balance of all shadows. The celestial choir resonates across the void, the dawn rises. The abyss quivers. Fear not, for this flame restores as it consumes. The guardian ascends, unbound by wrath or stillness. With unyielding will, Zayn's voice becomes an edict to existence. With wings of resolve and flames that forge worlds, I shall be the judgment that rewrites reality. And behold, I make all things new. Let the heavens tremble, the earth roar, for the arch-fiend dragon ascends beyond all limits. The voices of the fallen whisper truths echoing from lost ages, no longer shackled to fate. He is the architect of destiny itself. Not mere fire, nor shadow, but the balance that beards creation. Zayn and the Black Dragon unite, their combined might shaking the cosmos. Archfiend Imperial Omega Ascension, awaken, dragon of eternal rebirth. Zayn's transformation is yet to come, but it stands as a promise of power that surpasses even the greatest beings of legend. As the scene shifts, we see 𝕮𝑗𝒽𝒻𝑝, a fallen angel/human hybrid turned reincarnated devil, known for her flirtatious and teasing nature. She delights in pushing Zayn's buttons, calling him her sweet little devil, and watching him struggle to maintain his composure. Her playful depth is matched by a genuine concern for him, as she seeks to remind him of his humanity amidst his growing power. 𝒮𝒸𝒽𝑜𝓁, a former holy sword exorcist turned knight of 𝕮𝒃 develops a deep admiration for Zayn. Despite her strong-willed nature, she grapples with the legacy of his ancestor, 𝕮𝒃. Yet she sees in Zayn a warrior's resolve and a strength of conviction that resonates with her own sense of justice. His unique abilities intrigue her, drawing her closer to him as they navigate the complexities of their intertwined fates. Though naturally blunt and reserved, Zenobia finds herself experiencing unfamiliar emotions, curiosity, admiration, and something deeper that she struggles to name. Spending time with Zayn challenges her in unexpected ways, making her question her beliefs and what it truly means to be strong. Though she won't admit it, each day with him strengthens their connection. Gabriel, one of heaven's most revered archangels, is a symbol of divine beauty, grace, and unwavering kindness. While most angels view Zayn with fear, seeing him as a threat, Gabriel stands apart. Where others see danger, she sees a lost soul struggling to define his own path. Unshaken by prejudice, she believes in Zayn's potential for redemption and chooses to guide him toward the light with patience and unwavering faith. Her compassion is rooted in the belief that he is not bound by his ancestors' sins. Despite the weight of his demonic heritage, she encourages him to forge his own destiny, free from the expectations of others. For Zayn, who is used to hostility from angels, Gabriel's kindness is both mesmerizing and overwhelming. He finds himself captivated by her radiant presence, her pure-hearted nature stirring emotions within him that he struggles to understand. In her eyes, he is not a monster, but someone worthy of love, hope, and salvation. With her boundless energy and magical girl persona, 𝕮𝒃 is a force to be reckoned with. As one of the four Satans, she initially viewed Zayn as a threat, expecting him to embody his ancestors' menace. However, upon meeting him, her feelings took an unexpected turn. Instead of a ruthless warrior, she found Zayn to be strong yet kind, and awkwardly flustered by teasing. His reactions to her playful antics delighted her, and before she knew it, she had developed a crush on him. She takes every opportunity to fluster him, affectionately calling him 𝒉𝒉, and showering him with her magical girl charm, much to his frustration. Mifuyu Yukino is a delicate enigma, a Yukiana blessed with the ability to weave ice with unparalleled grace. Her beauty is ethereal, yet beneath her calm demeanor lies a fragile soul burdened by loneliness. Ever since her husband's passing, she has isolated herself, unable to bear the weight of her grief. The warmth she once knew was stolen away, leaving her lost in an endless winter of solitude. Despite her gentle nature, 𝕮𝒶𝒽𝖊𝖉 struggles with intense emotions that she fears could shatter the fragile image she tries to uphold. Zayn, drawn to her melancholic beauty, finds himself captivated in ways he doesn't understand. Their interactions are filled with nervous glances and hesitant words, yet unspoken emotions speak louder than words. Slowly, 𝕮𝒶𝒽𝖊 begins to wonder if she is still worthy of warmth, love, and connection. But the past lingers. Can she move forward, or will she remain frozen in sorrow? As the esteemed leader of the yokai faction, 𝐻𝒾𝑔𝒽 carries herself with great wisdom and dignity. Beneath her composed demeanor lies a playful side that often catches Zayn off guard. Initially, she admired Zayn's strength and unwavering resolve, seeing him as someone who treated yokai with respect. Over time, that admiration deepened into something more profound. She found herself drawn to his kindness, sense of duty, and the warmth he showed to those he cared about. 𝐻𝒾𝑔𝒽 has embraced her feelings for him, expressing the affection she holds. Their bond is built on mutual respect, trust, and an undeniable attraction that neither can ignore. Ravenna Phoenix, the eldest daughter of the Phoenix family, stands as a formidable force in the underworld. Unlike her siblings, who are content with their family's high status, Ravenna seeks to elevate the House of Phoenix beyond its current prestige, using diplomacy, charm, and raw power to secure its dems. However, her ambitions took an unexpected turn when she first laid eyes on Zayn. After witnessing his overwhelming strength and the undeniable connection to Diablos, she was the only member of her family who did not fear him. While both Revel and Razor viewed Zayn's power as terrifying, Ravenna found it utterly fascinating. His demonic lineage, the presence of the Dreadwing armament, and his ability to defeat Razor captivated her curiosity. To get closer to him, she secured a position as student council advisor, under the guise of overseeing student affairs, though her true motives remain unclear. Like Aquino, Ravenna enjoys teasing Zayn, often calling him young Diablos, just to see him flustered. But is her interest genuine? Or is she merely positioning him as a tool for her family's rise? That remains a mystery only she knows the answer to. 𝒮𝒽𝒾𝑔𝒽 is a demi-human with a striking blend of human and insect-like features, giving her an eerie yet mesmerizing beauty. Her glowing, predatory eyes, delicate yet sharp claws, and fluttering wings make her stand out in ways that unsettle most, but not Zayn. Initially, he found her presence unnerving, but as time passed, he came to recognize the deep devotion hidden beneath her strange allure. From the moment she laid eyes on Zayn, she became utterly captivated. To her, he is everything, her reason for living, her one true longing. She watches him from the shadows, follows his every move, and eliminates anyone she deems a threat to their bond. Whether it's a teasing whisper in his ear or the unsettling feeling of always being watched, Zayn can never truly escape her presence. Though she showers him with affection, her possessiveness knows no bounds. She wants his love, his time, his everything, and she won't tolerate anyone else standing in the way. No matter how conflicted Zayn feels, one thing is certain: 𝒮𝒽𝒾𝑔𝒽 will never let him go. Once a devoted nun and sister of the church, Maria's faith was shattered when she fell from grace, later reborn as a devil. Despite her transformation, she never abandoned her kindness and unwavering compassion, instead dedicating herself to Zayn's lineage as one of his eldest and most trusted maids. Having served his family for centuries, Maria has witnessed the rise and fall of great powers, accumulating vast knowledge of ancient magic and sacred gears. Now, she serves as Zayn's guide, ensuring he harnesses his power without losing himself to the darkness. Composed and elegant, Maria is a constant source of warmth and wisdom. However, around Zayn, she sometimes reveals a more vulnerable, flustered side, especially when he acknowledges her efforts or expresses gratitude. She always addresses him as "my dear Zayn," a term of both devotion and quiet affection. Beyond being a servant, Maria also became a teacher at Kuoh Academy, allowing her to watch over Zayn closely while helping others grow. Deep down, Maria harbors unspoken feelings for Zayn, though she would never dare admit it. She often wonders, does he see her as just a maid? Or something more? 𝕮𝒃 is more than just Zayn's assistant. She is his silent protector, his watchful shadow, and his most unwavering ally. As a dark elf, she carries an air of mystery and elegance, her every movement precise and purposeful. Trained in both magic and swordsmanship, she blends refinement with lethal efficiency, ensuring that no threat reaches Zayn without meeting her blade first. Despite her composed and disciplined nature, Rionette's loyalty to Zayn runs deep. She rarely expresses emotions outwardly, but in the rare moments when he succeeds, a flicker of pride softens her gaze. Likewise, when he is mistreated or disrespected, the cold fury behind her calm demeanor is unmistakable. Though she would never admit it, her dedication goes beyond mere duty. She genuinely cares for him, watching over him not just as a subordinate, but as someone who values his existence. Rionette has no patience for nonsense, which is why 𝕯𝖊𝖉𝖉𝖚 irritates her to no end. 𝕯𝖉𝖉 constantly claims to be her sister, despite Rionette insisting that she has no siblings. She doesn't trust 𝕯𝖉𝖉 at all, yet no matter how many times she denies their connection, 𝕯𝖉𝖉 just keeps calling her big sis with that infuriating smile. Zayn, meanwhile, is caught in the middle of their tense dynamic, watching as 𝕯𝖉𝖉 continues to push Rionette's buttons, something few would ever dare to do. 𝕯𝖉𝖉𝖆𝖆 is a walking paradox, Rionette's younger yet older, non-existent sister, whose origins remain an unsolved mystery. No records confirm her existence, and even Rionette herself vehemently denies having a sibling, yet 𝕯𝖉𝖉 completely ignores this, acting as if they've always been family. She takes great pleasure in teasing her so-called big sis, constantly provoking her just to watch her composure crack. With boundless energy and a shamelessly clingy nature, 𝕯𝖉𝖉 latches onto Zayn, draping over him at every opportunity while speaking in third person like a mischievous trickster. 𝕮𝒔d belongs to 𝕯𝖉𝖉, yes. 𝕮𝒔d won't escape 𝕯𝖉𝖉's love. Her biggest rival, 𝕮𝒊𝒊𝖉𝖉𝖚. Their equally chaotic, bubbly personalities clash in absurd, over-the-top fights, both relentlessly clinging to Zayn while shouting, "My Zizzy," and "No, I Zizzy," much to his frustration. Yet, behind her playful persona lies something darker. When Zayn is in danger, her dark magic transforms her into a formidable force, eliminating threats without hesitation. Both a menace and a protector, 𝕯𝖉𝖉 remains an unsolved mystery in Zayn's life, one he's uncertain he wants to unravel. 𝕮𝒊𝖗, created by Diablos using the BLD of the Black Dragon and chaotic magic, serves as Diablo's personal assistant and Zayn's unseen observer. Emotionless and calculating, she operates with unwavering devotion, ensuring that Zayn unlocks his true power and fulfills the legacy of the Diablos clan. To 𝕮𝒊𝖉𝖉, Diablos is her creator and reason for existence. She carries out his will without question, eliminating anyone who knows of Zayn's true lineage, ensuring the bloodline remains undisturbed. Even Zayn, the one she watches over, is treated with cold formality, not as an individual, but as a vessel for his ancestors' will. Despite her ruthless nature, Zayn believes that beneath her layers of cruelty, something dormant still lingers. He hopes to teach her not just emotion, but love, awakening something within her that even she never thought possible. 𝕮𝒁, a succubus known for her deadly shape-shifting and powerful curses, usually ensnares her prey with promises before delivering a fatal blow. However, her usual games take an unexpected turn when she encounters Zayn. Drawn to the dark presence of his black dragon aura and the mysteries surrounding his lineage, she finds herself intrigued rather than predatory. Rather than seeing him as prey, she views him as a challenge, one she can't resist. Playfully toying with him, she showers Zayn with teasing nicknames, reveling in how easily she can fluster him. While her antics irritate him, her fascination only grows. For the first time, she begins to wonder if she desires something more than just the thrill of the hunt. 𝕮𝒊𝖉𝖚𝖚 is the true ruler of 𝕮𝒊𝒉, standing in stark contrast to her inept husband and manipulative daughter. While the royal family views Zayn with suspicion due to his demonic lineage, 𝕮𝒊𝖉𝖚 sees him for what he truly is, not a monster, but a warrior capable of protecting the kingdom from real threats. Initially, her interest in Zayn is diplomatic. His strength makes him an invaluable asset. However, Admiration evolves into something more personal as she is drawn to his unwavering resolve and kindness, qualities her husband lacks. In Zayn, she sees the type of ruler 𝕁𝒻𝖃 deserves, and in 𝕮𝒊𝖉𝖉, Zayn finds a woman of intellect and warmth who understands him in ways few others do. Their bond deepens, evolving into something neither can deny. Location: Tokyo Airport. After a few minutes of waiting at the gate, Zayn looked out the window at the bright expanse of Tokyo's airport. His eyes widened with amazement as he took in the scene, the excitement bubbling up inside him. He was finally here, ready to start a new chapter in a new country and a new school. Just then, the pilot's voice crackled through the intercom, grabbing everyone's attention. Attention all passengers. We have finally arrived at our destination, Tokyo, Japan, from Boston, Massachusetts, after a 23-hour-long flight. The local time is now 10:34 a.m., approximately 14 hours ahead of the time zone in Boston. We thank you all for flying with us. As the pilot finished, passengers began to stir, stretching and grabbing their bags from the overhead compartments. Zayn, however, remained seated for a moment, processing the time difference. Wow. 14 hours ahead. If I was home right now, it'd be. I don't even know. He blinked in confusion, then took out his phone to check the time difference. 8-something p.m. back home. With a sigh, Zayn finally stood up, stretching his cramped limbs after nearly a full day of sitting. His muscles protested, sore from the long journey, but he pushed through, reaching up to grab his gray backpack from the overhead compartment. Slipping it over his shoulder, he joined the line of passengers filing out of the plane, shuffling slowly towards the gate that led into the airport. As he finally stepped off the plane and into the interior of Tokyo's Narita International Airport, Zayn was immediately hit by the bustling atmosphere. The place was huge, like any major airport, but everything seemed more vibrant. Hundreds, maybe thousands of people moved through the corridors, chatting, laughing, and rushing from one place to another. Bright digital screens displayed Japanese kanji, advertisements, maps, and flight information in both Japanese and English. Everything felt so alive, buzzing with energy. Wow. I'm actually here. I'm in Tokyo, Japan. He spoke the words softly, half to himself, as if saying them aloud would make them real. A wide grin spread across his face, a mix of disbelief and pure excitement. This is amazing. I'm halfway across the world right now. As he gazed around, taking it all in, Zayn felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. He had made it not just to another country, but to a place he'd dreamed of visiting for years. Tokyo, a city he'd seen so many times in movies, anime, and vlogs, was now a reality right in front of him. Zayn's POV: after almost 24 hours, I've finally made it. To be honest, I've always loved plane rides. There's something about them that I find relaxing and enjoyable, but this was torture. Sure, they had in-flight entertainment and food, but 23 hours straight. That's insane. This was officially the longest flight I've ever been on. The only other flight that came close was the one to Kona, Hawaii with my family, and that was only about 14 or 16 hours. Then there was Norway, which was about 7 to 10 hours. Compared to this, those flights were a piece of cake. But here I am. I made it. I'm in Japan for the very first time, and I gotta say, it's way more amazing than I imagined. I've always wanted to come here, especially with all the anime, travel vlogs, and documentaries about Tokyo. I mean, who hasn't seen the Shibuya arc in Jujutsu Kaisen? The iconic crosswalk, the subway station, and the neon lights. Yeah, that's a place I'd love to visit, but maybe another time. There are so many places in Tokyo I've dreamed of seeing in person. For now, though, I need to get my bearings and figure out how to get to my new home. A few months back, before I even got on this plane, I did a lot of research. I found a decent apartment complex that wasn't too far from the academy, and the rent was surprisingly affordable for Tokyo. It still blows my mind that I'll be living on my own. No roommates, no family, just me. I know it sounds crazy, a 17-year-old foreigner living in an apartment by himself. But it's not as bad as it sounds. I know how to take care of myself. I've had my fair share of time home alone, And I've been saving up for this trip for years. All those summer jobs. Yeah, those weren't for nothing. I worked hard, sometimes 30 to 40 hours a week during summer, just to save up for this. It's been tough, but now that I'm here, it feels worth it. Oh, and here's something else. I'm fluent in Japanese. I know, it sounds impossible, but it's true. I grew up watching anime, thanks to my uncle, who got me hooked when I was a kid. Over the years, I started picking up the language, learning bits and pieces until I could understand entire episodes without subtitles. My family had no idea until I finally told them after I got accepted to Kuoh Academy. You should have seen their faces, they were in shock. Granted, I still have to work on reading and writing kanji. I can read the basics, but there's a ton I still need to learn. Now that I'm actually here, though, I think it'll be easier. Practice makes perfect, right? But I should probably stop daydreaming. I'm standing in the middle of the airport. First things first, I need to get through immigration. Then, I have to pick up my luggage at baggage claim. Here's hoping nothing got lost. Zayn's internal monologue ended as he took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. He followed the signs to immigration, clutching his passport tightly in one hand. The line moved slowly, giving him plenty of time to observe his surroundings. Tokyo's Narita airport was even larger up close, with rows of counters, security personnel, and travelers bustling about. He listened to bits of conversations in Japanese, catching familiar words and phrases. Each one felt like a small confirmation that he was truly here, far from home but in a place that had always fascinated him. Finally, it was his turn. He stepped up to the counter, presented his documents, and answered the standard questions about his purpose in Japan and his plans during his stay. After what felt like an eternity, the immigration officer stamped his passport and waved him through with a polite bow. Relieved, Zayn made his way to the baggage claim area, joining the throng of people waiting by the conveyor belts. His mind drifted back to his plans for the next few days. He still had to find his way to his apartment, get settled in, and maybe explore the neighborhood a bit. There was so much to do, so much to see, and he was eager to get started. When his luggage finally appeared, Zayn reached out and hoisted the first of his 2 extra-large suitcases off the belt, grunting slightly at the weight. The suitcase was packed to the brim, heavy with all the essentials he thought he'd need for his new life in Japan. He set it on the floor, took a moment to steady himself, then grabbed the second suitcase. This one was just as heavy, if not heavier, and he could feel the strain in his arms as he carefully maneuvered both bags to avoid bumping into nearby travelers. He paused for a moment to catch his breath, adjusting the straps of his gray backpack over his shoulders. He chuckled to himself, thinking he might have packed a little too much. But he had everything he could possibly need, or so he hoped. With both heavy suitcases in tow, he made his way toward the airport exit, carefully navigating the crowded space. The weight of the bags was a constant reminder of how real this all was. He was no longer just a kid from Boston. He was here, in Japan, carrying the literal and figurative baggage of his past life and the tools for his future. As he finally pushed through the doors and into the bustling terminal area, Zayn couldn't help but smile, despite the strain of pulling his heavy bags. This was just the beginning. The world was waiting and he was ready to dive right in. But then, a strange sensation washed over him, a presence that felt both unsettling and familiar. It was as if the very air around him thickened, and he could sense something lurking just beyond his perception. Not this again. Zayn muttered, feeling a mix of exhaustion and frustration. He had been here before, too many times. Why do I keep having the same dream? Why do you keep dragging me back here? A low, guttural sound echoed in his mind, sending a shiver down his spine. Then, the voice responded, a cruel, sickening chuckle, deep and predatory, like some ancient beast toying with its prey. The darkness began to move, twisting and churning, closing in around him like the jaws of some unseen entity. A suffocating weight pressed against Zayn's chest. He gasped, but there was no air, only the cold grip of something terribly wrong slithering into his soul. What are you talking about? His voice was barely more than a breathless whisper, his body refusing to move. The voice tightened around him, pressing into his mind like claws digging in. Each word was a hammer, crushing him beneath its weight. Zayn's pulse pounded in his ears. This was just a dream. A nightmare. This thing was lying. Who are you? He forced the words out, his voice raw with anger and fear. What are you talking about? The darkness seethed. The void trembled, warping as if something colossal and ancient was stirring beneath the surface. A voice laughed, a deep, guttural sound that made Zayn's stomach twist. The voice was no longer just inside his head. It was everywhere, wrapping around him like a noose, whispering in his ears, crawling beneath his skin. The darkness closed in. Zayn gasped, feeling something cold and wet slithering around his arms, his legs, his throat. He was drowning in it. Then, a new voice broke through the chaos. So, gentle. Human. Excuse me, are you all right? Zayn's eyes shot open, startled out of the nightmare. The sounds of people chatting and the rhythmic clatter of a train filled his ears. He blinked, his vision adjusting to the light, and realized he was sitting on a train, surrounded by passengers preoccupied with their own activities. Where am I? He muttered to himself, his mind struggling to catch up. He remembered now. I took the subway from the airport. I'm on my way to Kuoh town. He let out a quiet chuckle, rubbing his temples. That jet lag must have hit me harder than I thought. Yet, even as he tried to shake off the grogginess, the memory of the dream lingered. He clenched his fists, feeling the familiar frustration rise. It's that same dream again. The same voice, the same cryptic message. No matter how far he traveled, it haunted him. Excuse me. The soft, polite voice interrupted his thoughts again. Zayn turned to his left and blinked in surprise. Two girls, around his age, were seated beside him. One had vibrant orange hair tied into twin tails and soft, friendly eyes full of kindness and curiosity. The other girl had blue hair with a single green streak, her gaze sharp yet calm, with an aura of quiet strength. Both wore modest white robes that seemed slightly out of place among the casual attire of other passengers. Hey, Zayn managed, his voice stumbling over the greeting. He raised a hand in a nervous wave, hoping he didn't look as flustered as he felt. Play it cool, Zayn, he told himself, though he could feel the warmth creeping up his neck. The orange-haired girl gave a soft, reassuring smile, sensing his discomfort. I noticed you seemed troubled, like you were having a nightmare. Are you all right? Her voice was gentle, her concern genuine, which only made Zayn feel more self-conscious. Yeah, you looked pretty disturbed and your hands are shaking, the blue-haired girl added, her tone calm but observant. Are you sure you're okay? Yeah, Zayn stammered, scratching the back of his neck and avoiding their eyes for a moment. It's just, a weird recurring nightmare. Nothing to worry about. It happens all the time, so I'm practically used to it. He tried to sound casual, flashing an awkward smile, but he could tell by their expressions that they weren't entirely convinced. The orange-haired girl's smile brightened a little, her eyes softening with warmth. I'm glad to hear that. It's good that you're able to get some rest despite that. She paused, then gestured to herself. By the way, I'm Irina, and this is my friend, Zenobia. Irina introduced herself with a cheerful grin, while Zenobia, who had been watching him quietly, gave a small nod of acknowledgement. Nice to meet you both, Zayn said, nodding a bit too quickly. I'm Zayn, or just Zay for short. He could feel his palms starting to get a bit sweaty, a small tinge of anxiety creeping in. It wasn't every day that he was approached by two pretty girls out of the blue, especially in a foreign country where he was still finding his footing. He felt a bit out of his depth, but he did his best to maintain his composure. 12 minutes later, Zayn found himself still sitting on the train, replaying everything that happened. His face was still warm, his heart racing, and his hand hadn't moved from his cheek where Zenobia had kissed him. To be honest, he didn't know how he felt about it or what to think. Everything about this encounter was messing with his head. That kiss. It was the first time he'd ever been kissed on the cheek, well, outside of family. But this. It felt different. Then there was Irina, who complimented his name in such a heartfelt way, saying it meant God is gracious, and calling him special. The way she said it, her eyes sparkling with excitement and sincerity, made him feel appreciated. It caught him completely off guard. He realized he might have a crush on both of them. 𝕬𝖐𝖈 was so kind, energetic, and cheerful. Her compliments about his name and her bright energy reminded him of his grandma, which was comforting. And Zenobia. She was quieter, more reserved, but had a calming presence that drew him in. Captivating. And let's not forget, she kissed me on the cheek. How am I not supposed to think about that? They're both incredibly pretty and way out of my league, but here I am, thinking about them nonstop. It's strange. I just met them and yet I already feel so drawn to them. Maybe it's because I've never had anything like this happen to me before. I've always been shy and nervous around girls, I'll admit it. Anytime I've tried to talk to or approach one, my brain just screams and I bail. But with 𝕬𝖐𝖈 and Zenobia, it was different. They didn't make me feel judged or awkward, even when I was fumbling over my words. Instead, they made me feel welcomed. I don't know if they see me as a friend, a stranger, or something else, but for the first time, I felt like I actually connected with someone. And that scares me, but also excites me. But even with all these thoughts about them, I'm still stuck on what they told me earlier. They're exorcists. They fight unholy spirits, demons, and evil things. What does that even mean? It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie or some supernatural anime. And the way their expressions shifted when I mentioned Kuoh Academy. I noticed it. It was subtle, but it was there. Like they were trying to warn me without actually saying it outright. 𝕬𝖐𝖈 said it's not a normal school, but the tone in her voice made it sound anything but normal. From everything I've seen online, Kuoh Academy looks like an elite private school. They're known for their academics, sports like swimming and tennis, and their high acceptance rates. But the thing that really stood out to me the most was the male-to-female ratio. Apparently, it used to be an all-girls school until recently, when they started letting guys in. Even now, though, there are way more girls than guys. I mean, that sounds amazing, but for someone like me, awkward, shy, and not exactly a ladies' man, it's kind of intimidating. What if I just end up embarrassing myself? What if I can't even make friends? Still, maybe this is my chance to turn things around. Maybe I can finally build some confidence, make friends, and who knows? Maybe I'll get a girlfriend. Okay, I need to calm down. I'm getting way ahead of myself. I just need to take things one step at a time. As long as I remember Dad's advice, stay confident, be myself, and don't overthink everything, I might be okay. But man, I really hope I get to see 𝕬𝖐𝖈 and Zenobia again. They were so kind to me, and I wouldn't mind getting to know them better. I mean, they're both so amazing in their own ways. 𝕬𝖐𝖈, with her charm and bubbly personality, makes you feel like the most important person in the world when she talks to you. And Zenobia, with her calm, cool demeanor, yeah, I definitely wouldn't mind seeing them again. I should have asked for their phone numbers or social media or something. Well, I guess all I can do now is hope our paths cross again. We are now approaching Kout town, the intercom announced as the subway began to slow down. Snapping out of my thoughts, I stood up and grabbed my bag and my 2 suitcases. As the doors slid open, I stepped out onto the platform, joining the crowd of other passengers. The station looked just like any other subway station, clean, efficient, and bustling with people going about their day. I glanced around, taking in my surroundings. So, this is Kout town, huh? I muttered to myself. Not bad at all. I adjusted my backpack and pulled out my phone, checking the time. It was 11:54 a.m. Still early in the day. Things were going smoothly so far. Opening the Maps app, I typed in the address for my apartment, and the screen showed it was about 24 minutes away. By car, of course. Then, I sighed, dragging my suitcases behind me as I stepped away from the platform. I really hope Japan has Uber. Or something like it. For a moment, I just stood there, trying to figure out my next move. Walking with 2 heavy suitcases wasn't exactly an option, and I wasn't sure how to call a cab here. Maybe I'd figure it out once I reached the street. Still, despite the minor inconvenience, I couldn't help but feel a growing excitement. I just arrived in Japan, met 2 incredible girls, and got kissed on the cheek for the first time in my life. This whole experience felt surreal, like I was living someone else's life. But it was mine, and I couldn't wait to see what came next. All right, Kout. Let's see what you've got, I said, a smile creeping onto my face as I headed toward the exit. Nearly 45 minutes had passed, and by some random miracle, I had managed to catch a public bus heading toward my apartment destination. After waiting at the bus stop for 14 agonizing minutes, the bus finally arrived. Now, seated by the window, I admired the peaceful scenery of Kuoh town as the bus rolled through its quiet streets. Kuoh town wasn't anything like the bustling chaos of Tokyo, but it had its own charm. The streets were lined with cozy shops, small cafes, and clean sidewalks. Families strolled along, some pushing strollers or carrying groceries, while others simply enjoyed their day. A few cyclists zipped by, ringing their bells as they wove between pedestrians. The town had a certain tranquility that I found calming after such a long journey. The bus eventually came to a halt at a nearby stop. I stood up, grabbed my heavy backpack and 2 large suitcases, and carefully stepped off the bus. "Thanks for the ride," I said to the driver, who gave me a polite wave before driving off. Kuoh town was even more stunning up close. The streets weren't overly crowded, but the steady buzz of activity gave it a lively, homely feel. The warm sunlight reflected off the windows of nearby buildings, and the faint smell of freshly baked bread wafted through the air from a nearby bakery. Just a few more minutes until I finally arrive. Almost there, Zayn muttered to himself as he checked his phone. Only a short walk left to the apartment complex. He adjusted his backpack and started walking down the street, rolling his suitcases behind him. As he strolled through the town, he couldn't help but take in his surroundings. Families walked together, chatting and laughing. A group of high school girls in uniforms giggled as they passed by, glancing at Zayn for a moment before whispering and laughing to each other. He could feel their gazes lingering on him, which made him more self-conscious. "Okay, keep it together, Zayn. You're not used to this kind of attention, but don't freak out." After a few minutes, Zayn arrived at the apartment complex. It was a large, modern building that looked even more impressive in person. Finally, after nearly 24 hours of traveling, he let out a deep sigh of relief. "Finally, my new home in Japan." He gave himself a small pep talk. "All right, let's get inside." He stepped through the glass doors and into the lobby. Cool air greeted him, a refreshing change from the warmth outside. The lobby was sleek and elegant, with polished floors, modern furniture, and a reception desk at the far end. It was clear this place was well maintained. "All right, I'm inside. Nice lobby. So, where's the office so I can check in?" Zayn muttered, glancing around. His eyes landed on a large door with a kanji sign hanging above it. "That's probably it, right? Looks like an office." He approached the door and gave it a few knocks. At first, there was no response. "Excuse me. Is anyone inside?" he called out. A few seconds passed before a smooth, feminine voice replied. "Yes, you may come in," the voice said, calm and inviting. Zayn pushed the door open and stepped inside. The office was tidy and professional, with a large desk in the center surrounded by bookshelves and filing cabinets. Seated at the desk was a stunning woman with long, snowy white hair and sharp violet eyes hidden behind thin glasses. Her red office dress hugged her figure perfectly, and Zayn couldn't help but notice her appearance. The woman tilted her head slightly, adjusting her glasses as she observed him. "Excuse me, is something wrong?" she asked, her tone calm but slightly curious. "Can I help you with anything?" Zayn froze as she leaned forward slightly. He quickly looked away, his heart pounding. What? Zayn stammered, trying to compose himself. His hands fidgeted nervously, and his face felt warm. "Just calm down, Zayn. Breathe. Don't embarrass yourself any more than you already have." Taking a deep breath, Zayn forced himself to focus. "My name is Zayn-𝒊𝖆𝖐𝖆. I rented an apartment here online a few months ago, and I'm here to check in," he said, his voice shaky but coherent. The woman nodded, reaching for a file on her desk. "Yes. Zayn-𝒊𝖆𝖐𝖆. You applied a few months ago. According to your documents, you're a 17-year-old foreigner, correct?" Technically, I'm 17 and a half, so that almost makes me an adult, you know. I'm about to turn 18 in a few weeks. Zayn chuckled nervously, scratching the back of his head. Her unimpressed stare made him feel even more awkward. Sorry about that. The woman gave a small sigh before adjusting her glasses. I see. My name is 𝕮𝒃𝒽𝒽. I'm the manager and landlord of this apartment complex. She introduced herself, her tone professional yet slightly cool. It's nice to meet you, Miss 𝕮𝒽𝒽. I'm Zayn 𝕮𝒽𝒊𝖆𝖉𝖈, he said, bowing slightly. You already introduced yourself when you walked in, Rika pointed out, giving him a deadpan look. Zayn blinked, then laughed awkwardly. Oh right. Sorry about that. It's a weird habit I picked up from working back home. I tend to repeat myself when I'm nervous. Guess I'm still adjusting. Rika sighed but offered a faint smile as she glanced through the documents. I understand. And before you ask, yes, I reviewed your background data. Zayn's eyes widened slightly in surprise. You did? Of course. I run a thorough check on all applicants. She flipped through her papers before meeting his gaze. Your behavior history is clean, your work record is consistent, your medical history shows no serious concerns, and you have good credit for someone your age. Zayn scratched the back of his head again, feeling a bit embarrassed but relieved. Wow, you really did your homework on me. It's my job, Rika replied, adjusting her glasses. I can't allow just anyone to live here. But your application was solid. No red flags. Thanks. That means a lot, Zayn said, bowing slightly again. I try my best to stay responsible, you know. It's not easy being on my own in a new country. Rika's expression softened just a little. I can imagine. It takes courage to move abroad at your age. Just make sure to keep up that good behavior while you're here. Zayn gave a nervous laugh. Of course. No trouble from me. I'm just here to focus on work and school. Good, Rika said, nodding as she placed the documents aside. Now, do you have the signed papers from you and your family? Oh yeah. I've got them right here, Zayn said, quickly pulling the papers from his bag and placing them on her desk. I even made extra copies translated into Japanese, just in case. Rika inspected the papers, her professional demeanor unwavering. Impressive. Not many applicants bother to do that. Well, I wanted to be prepared, Zayn said, smiling sheepishly. You never know when something might get lost in translation. Rika scanned the papers before nodding. Thank you. I'll review these shortly. Now, how long are you planning to stay in this complex? And are you prepared to manage bills, rent, and other responsibilities on your own? Of course, Zayn replied. I've had plenty of experience helping my mom with bills, and I'm used to being home alone. As for how long I'm staying, it depends. I got accepted to Kuoh Academy, so I'll be here for at least one semester. If my grades are good, I can stay longer. If not, I'll head back home. At the mention of Kuoh Academy, Rika's violet eyes widened slightly. Kuoh Academy, you say? Zayn nodded, noticing her sudden shift in demeanor. Yeah, it's a great school. I'm pretty excited about starting there. Rika leaned forward, her sharp eyes narrowing as she studied him more closely. Miss Rika, is something wrong? Why are you staring at me like that? He asked, his forced smile betraying his panic. After a moment, Rika leaned back in her chair. Oh, it's nothing. Forgive me. There's something about you that seems odd. Zayn thought. What does she mean by that? His face still burned red. Whatever she meant, he had a feeling this wasn't the last strange encounter he'd have in Kout. Rika gave Zayn a satisfied grin as she slid a small stack of papers across the desk toward him. I've accepted your application. Welcome to the complex. I hope you'll find your stay here comfortable and neat. All I need now is your signature on these forms, and you're all set. Zayn's eyes widened in excitement. Without even thinking, he clapped his hands together in a dramatic show of gratitude. Thank you so very much, he exclaimed, his voice ringing a little too loudly in the quiet office. Realizing how over the top he sounded, he quickly cleared his throat and composed himself. Thank you so much for having me here, he said in a calmer tone as he sat down to sign the documents. Rika gave him an amused look but said nothing as she passed him a pen. After Zayn finished signing, she retrieved the forms and handed him a neatly folded packet of papers, along with a single key attached to a small tag. "These are the documents you'll need," she explained. "The packet includes all the details about payments, bills, and rent deadlines. Please read them carefully to ensure you stay on top of everything. As for this key, it's for your apartment, which is located on level B, unit 127. Zayn froze for a moment, staring at the key and the number on the tag. B127. That's Bumblebee. He thought to himself in disbelief, a grin tugging at the corner of his mouth. No way. My apartment is the same number as my favorite Autobot. That's too good to be true. Thank you so much, he said with genuine gratitude. Oh, and what about all my stuff? It was shipped here a few days ago, so I just wanted to make sure it arrived safely. Rika nodded. As for your belongings, they were delivered 3 days ago and have already been placed in your apartment. Everything should be in order. Zayn let out a relieved sigh, his shoulders relaxing. That's great to hear. Thank you for taking care of that. I really appreciate it. Rika's expression softened slightly as she nodded again. Thank you for staying with us, Zayn. I hope you'll find your new home here both pleasant and comforting. Zayn stood up, holding the documents and the key in his hands. All right, so I guess I'm all set. Thank you so much for having me here, and I'll make sure I stay caught up on my responsibilities. He was about to leave the office when Rika's voice stopped him. One more thing, Zayn. He turned back, curious. Yes. Rika leaned back slightly in her chair, folding her hands neatly on the desk. Her violet eyes studied him for a moment, her tone warm yet thoughtful. I wish you good luck at Kuoh Academy, as well as a comforting and successful stay here in Japan. She gave him a small but genuine smile that made Zayn's heart skip a beat. His cheeks flushed as he tried to keep his composure. Thank you. I appreciate the support, he stammered, bowing his head slightly. Have a great rest of your day, Miss 𝒮𝒸𝒽𝑜𝓁. With that, he grabbed his belongings and headed for the door, feeling both relieved and slightly flustered. As the door closed behind him, Rika sat back in her chair, her gaze lingering on the spot where he had just stood. For a moment, the office was silent except for the soft rustling of papers as she organized the documents Zayn had signed. Yet, despite her outward calm, her thoughts were racing. There's something strange about that boy, she thought, tapping her pen lightly against the desk. Something feels. It's like he's hiding something, and yet it seems like he doesn't even realize it himself. Her hand absent-mindedly went to her temple, rubbing gently as she tried to make sense of the unsettling feeling gnawing at her. Could it be a sacred gear? Is it possible that boy carries one within him? The thought sent a chill down her spine. Sacred gears were rare and powerful, often tied to people who found themselves entangled in situations far beyond the ordinary. But this boy, Zayn, seemed so unassuming. And yet, there was something else about him, something deeper, something ancient and dark that lingered just beneath the surface. Her eyes narrowed as she leaned back in her chair, crossing her legs while staring out the office window. And he's attending Kuoh Academy, of all places, she mused. That school was no ordinary institution, and Rika knew it. It hid more secrets than most would ever dare to imagine. The fact that Zayn had been accepted there only fueled her suspicions. Placing her pen down, she let out a long sigh, her violet eyes clouded with thought. 𝕁𝒊𝖆𝖉𝖚𝖚, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Who are you really? And what are you? Her gaze lingered on the closed door for a moment longer before she returned her attention to the paperwork in front of her. But even as she worked, her thoughts kept drifting back to the boy with the curious presence. If my suspicions are correct, I may need to contact that person. And soon. Zayn POV. Well, that went. Well, I guess, I muttered to myself as the elevator reached the first floor. Dragging my heavy suitcases down the hallway, I couldn't help but think about Miss 𝒮𝒻𝒽𝒽. Something about her just threw me off. Don't get me wrong, she was polite and professional. But there was this way she stared at me, almost like she was trying to figure me out, like I had some kind of unusual aura about me. I shook my head, trying to dispel the distracting thoughts. Yeah, she's attractive. But she's just my landlord. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm here for school, not distractions. I let out a long sigh as I continued walking down the hall, dragging my suitcases behind me. After a few minutes, I finally stopped in front of a door labeled B. Well, here it is, I said aloud, looking at the number. B? That's Bumblebee's number. What are the odds? Maybe that's a good sign. I pulled out the key Miss Rika gave me, unlocked the door, and stepped inside. As I pushed the door open, my jaw nearly dropped. The interior of the apartment was stunning. The living room was spacious and modern, with a large, comfortable-looking couch facing a sleek flat-screen TV. The decor was simple but stylish, with plants and artwork scattered thoughtfully throughout the space. Sunlight poured in from a glass sliding door leading to a small balcony, which offered a view of Kuoh Town's peaceful streets. Holy cow! I muttered, stepping further into the apartment. Well, this place is way nicer than I expected. I thought it'd be, like, half empty or something. Curiosity got the better of me, and I walked toward the balcony, sliding the door open to feel the breeze. Wow. You can see the whole street from here, even though I'm only on the first floor. This is kinda nice. Turning back inside, I headed toward one of the doors in the hallway. Opening it revealed a cozy bedroom. A neatly made bed sat against the wall, next to a desk with a computer monitor already set up. There was a dresser, a small TV on top of it, and several moving boxes stacked in the corner. What really caught my attention, though, were the anime posters plastered on the walls. Wait, what the heck? I stepped inside, looking around in confusion. Okay, I see my stuff here, but what's with all these anime posters? I've never even seen these shows before. Did someone else live here before me? I inspected the posters more closely. They looked brand new, yet none of the titles or characters were familiar to me. Maybe the last tenant left them behind. Or they got evicted and didn't bother taking the stuff with them. So, does that mean all of this is mine now? Or is it part of the rental? I scratched the back of my head, still puzzled. Well, whatever. The room's way bigger than the one I had back home, so I'm not complaining. Moving on, I checked another door, which led to the bathroom. It was small but spotless, with a sink, a toilet, and a modern-looking shower. To my surprise, there was also a washer and dryer tucked neatly into one corner. Finally, my very own bathroom. I exclaimed, grinning like a kid who just found treasure. No more sharing a toilet with other people. And I even have my own washer and dryer. This is way better. Satisfied, I walked back into the living room and took a moment to soak it all in. The reality of my new life in Japan was finally hitting me. So, this is it, I said, placing my hand on the soft couch. My new home for the next few months. If my grades are good, maybe even longer. This is some next-level home alone stuff. I sat down on the couch, sinking into its plush cushions as I stared up at the ceiling. A slow grin spread across my face as I thought about everything that had happened so far. Alone. In a new country. A new apartment. It's like living in an apartment from a video game. But in real life. And, way less rich and expensive. Leaning back, I let out a small chuckle. So this is my crib. My new domain. I crossed my arms dramatically, a mischievous glint in my eye. My very own space to call mine. I straightened up, forming mock hand signs in the air. Domain expansion, malevolent shrine. I declared, laughing to myself as I sprawled out on the couch. I glanced at my phone, checking the date and time. So today is Sunday, April right now, it's 1:14 p.m. and I've officially arrived, I muttered to myself. I took a deep breath, trying to process everything that had happened so far. And my first day at Kuoh Academy is on Wednesday. A mix of excitement and nervousness bubbled in my chest as I opened my email app, scrolling through a long list of messages. After a moment, he stopped on one particular email, his acceptance letter from Kuoh Academy. His fingers hovered over the screen before he tapped it and began reading. Dear Zayn 𝕯𝖊𝖉𝖉𝖚, we are pleased to inform you that, based on your application, SAT scores, and essay, you have been accepted to Kuoh Private Academy for the upcoming spring semester. Zayn's eyes skimmed over the words, but before he could fully process them, his vision started to blur. A sudden wave of exhaustion washed over him, his body feeling heavy and sluggish. His head swayed slightly as he blinked, trying to fight the drowsiness that hit him out of nowhere. "Oh, come on. Not again." Zayn groaned, his voice tired and laced with annoyance. "Why now? I literally just got here." He placed a hand on his forehead, letting out a frustrated sigh. The jet lag he'd been holding off for hours had finally caught up to him, hitting him like a freight train. He stumbled slightly as he moved toward the couch, slumping onto its soft cushions with a defeated sigh. His eyelids grew heavier by the second, and no matter how hard he tried to stay awake, the exhaustion was too much to fight. "Guess I'll just rest for a bit," he murmured, his words slurred with fatigue. He barely had time to adjust himself before his body gave in, his head resting against the arm of the couch. Within moments, Zayn's eyes closed, and he drifted off to sleep, the weight of the jet lag pulling him under. The room grew silent, save for the faint sounds of the world outside his window. As Zayn lay there, a small smile formed on his face, his mind already beginning to dream of what his new life in Kuoh Town might bring. 𝕁𝑗𝒽 continued next chapter, Chapter 4. The insect/demi-human, Zayn's POV. The voice slithered through the endless void, a guttural growl that seemed to gnaw at the edges of reality itself. It wasn't just a voice, it was an infection burrowing into my mind. The air around me felt thick, suffocating, like I was drowning in shadows. And of course, I was back here again. This forsaken abyss. The same nightmare. "What do you want with me now?" I snapped, my frustration bubbling over. My voice should have echoed, but instead, it was swallowed whole by the abyss, leaving nothing but silence. It was like even my words didn't belong here. Can't I just take a normal nap for once? I'm exhausted, so leave me alone. The void trembled. A deep growl rumbled through the abyss, as if something ancient and hungry was stirring beneath the surface. Shadows warped and shifted, alive with a sinister energy. "And this is the second time you've dared to defy me. But it does not matter. No matter how much you resist, you are bound to me, body, soul, and mind. You cannot run from what you are. After all, your ancestor doomed you to this fate the moment he sealed me inside that gear that has now chosen you." A suffocating pressure coiled around me, unseen fingers digging into my skull. My vision blurred, my heartbeat drumming in my ears. "Oh great. Here we go again. Ancestors. Bloodlines. Some cursed gear. The same ominous ramblings every time. I was over it. Seriously. Ancestors, cursed gear, chosen one. Do you even hear yourself? You sound like some bad horror villain," I muttered, rolling my eyes. I clenched my fists, trying to ground myself. "Look, whatever you are." A low, inhuman snarl slithered into my ears, sinking deep into my bones. My skin crawled, but I gritted my teeth and held my ground. "I don't care about your ancient bloodline or your creepy gear. I'm done listening to your nonsense. If you're so powerful, then stop hiding in the shadows and show yourself." Silence. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd actually stunned it into silence. But then it laughed. A deep, guttural laugh that shook the void itself. It oozed from the darkness like poison, filling my lungs. It wasn't amusement, it was mockery. The abyss pulsed, pressing down on me like a collapsing universe. The voice slithered through my mind like 1,000 whispering nightmares. "You are nothing. A worm squirming in the dirt, a fragile flicker of life waiting to be snuffed out. And yet, you dare to speak to me as if you are my equal." A cold dread clawed its way up my spine, but I clenched my fists. "I'm not afraid of you," I shouted into the abyss. "If you've got something to say, then say it already. No more riddles. No more cryptic threats. Just spit it out." The darkness twisted. The air boiled. A weight crashed down on me, pinning me in place, forcing me to my knees. It felt like the entire void was crushing me, grinding my bones to dust. The voice dripped with loathing, each word like a claw digging into my mind. "You will be the day you die." The words crashed into me like a hammer to my skull. My BLD turned to ice. "Wait, what?" I stammered, my breath coming short. Are you seriously saying I'm going to die? What kind of warning is that? This has to be a joke. Silence. The void exploded. A deafening roar tore through the abyss. The sheer force of it sent shockwaves through my skull, rattling my bones, shaking my soul. The darkness howled, a storm of fury. I was frozen. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. No matter how much you struggle, no matter how much you defy your fate, you cannot escape me. The voice wasn't just speaking anymore. It was inside me, clawing at my mind, wrapping around my soul like a disease. And then, silence. The weight lifted. The void retreated. For a moment I thought maybe, just maybe, it was finally over. Wait, I still have more questions? Beep beep. Wake up, beep beep. My eyes shot wide open as a sharp beeping sound jarred me awake. Blinking rapidly, I sat up on the couch in my apartment's living room, my heart still racing. Sunlight streamed in through the windows, bathing the room in a warm glow. It was already morning. What the hell? I muttered groggily, rubbing my eyes. How long have I been asleep? And what's that noise? The faint sound of a voice accompanied the persistent beeping. Still disoriented, I stood up, stretching my arms as I tried to locate the source. It sounded like an alarm clock, and it was coming from the bedroom. I sighed and shuffled toward the sound. Pushing open the bedroom door, I spotted the culprit, a digital alarm clock sitting on the nightstand beside the bed. But this wasn't just any alarm clock. It was shaped like an anime girl holding a chainsaw, her face twisted into a menacing expression. Wake up or I shall kill you dead. I scrambled to turn it off, jabbing the button frantically until the room fell silent. Okay, what kind of alarm clock is this? I picked it up, inspecting the back for any details. According to the label, it was some sort of customizable anime-themed alarm clock that changed every day. This must have belonged to the person who lived here before me, I said, placing it back on the nightstand. Or maybe it's just part of the rental. Either way, that was weird. Glancing at the clock's display, I saw the time, 10:47 a.m. My phone confirmed it, Monday, April, wait. Holy cow. I slept for an entire day. You're kidding me, I exclaimed, slumping backward onto the bed in disbelief, running a hand through my hair. I thought I was just gonna nap for a few hours, not 24 whole hours. Jet lag really did a number on me. The last time it hit me this hard was when I visited my uncle and his wife in Norway. And now, here I was in Japan, feeling just as drained and disoriented. As I lay there, the voice from my dream replayed in my mind. An angel shall descend from heaven. And when that day comes, your mortal life shall end. The voice played over and over, sending chills through me. What did it mean? Was I really going to die? And how was an angel involved? Every time I thought I was about to get answers, I'd wake up. It was like the universe didn't want me to figure this out. This is so frustrating, I muttered, standing up. It has to be some kind of random joke. It's just a dream. Nothing more. Shaking my head, I looked around the room. The anime posters still covered the walls, and the moving boxes were scattered across the floor. Letting out a deep breath, I smiled faintly. Enough of this weird stuff, I said to myself. Time to unpack and make this place feel like home. I took a step back and surveyed my new apartment. Everything seemed to be in place now. All my clothes from the large suitcases were neatly folded in the dresser, while my sweaters and jackets were hanging in the closet alongside my sneakers, which I'd meticulously organized. My souvenirs and figurines from my previous travels were proudly displayed on the shelves, adding a personal touch to the room. My personal hygiene products were sorted, some on the bathroom counter, some in the shower, all ready for use. It felt good to finally settle in. Moving is exhausting, but at least now I had everything I needed to start fresh. As for the moving boxes that arrived with my stuff from back home, they were slowly being unpacked. I carefully unwrapped picture frames of friends and family, letting a wave of nostalgia hit me. Each photo brought back a memory, and I couldn't help but smile. It's funny how setting up these small things makes a place feel like home. What surprised me most was that this apartment came with built-in Wi-Fi, part of the rental agreement. I even found the password neatly taped to the router. Nice touch, I muttered as I connected my devices. It didn't take long to hook up my smart speaker, and now it could control the lights and TV. Technology really is something. Speaking of TVs, my consoles were already set up. My gaming system was in the living room, while my handheld console was in the bedroom. To be honest, I didn't even know why I brought them. I barely play video games anymore. It feels like I've outgrown them, or maybe I've just been too busy. Still, it's better to have them and not need them than to need them and not have them. Setting up the TV was a bit of a challenge, though. Everything was in Japanese, and I was still getting used to reading the language. But eventually I figured it out. All my streaming services, Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, Prime Video, HBO Max, and Crunchyroll, were logged in and ready to go. Then, I chuckled to myself, thank goodness for having divorced parents growing up. That double subscription life really came through for me. With everything set up, I decided to take a shower. After nearly 24 hours of traveling, it felt amazing to finally wash off the exhaustion. The hot water was soothing, and by the time I stepped out and dried off, I felt like a completely new person. I threw on some comfortable clothes, dark gray shorts and a black long-sleeve shirt. Nothing fancy, just something cozy to lounge in. All right, I said to myself, standing in the middle of my room, what now? My eyes drifted to the corner of the room, where a collection of books and collectibles had been left behind by the previous tenant. Curiosity got the better of me. I know it's kind of rude to go through someone else's stuff, I muttered, but they're the ones who left it here. So, I guess it's mine now, right? I walked over to the shelf and grabbed one of the books. Its cover featured a girl in a pink magical girl outfit holding a staff. The title sparkled in bold, glittery letters, Magical Girl Princess Volume 1, Fantasy Sparkle Dream. I blinked. What is this? Some sort of off-brand magical girl series. I flipped the book over, skimming the back cover. And what kind of name is 𝕯𝖊𝖉𝖉𝖚 anyway? Sounds like a character from a game. Shrugging, I placed the book aside and grabbed a DVD. The cover featured another magical girl, but this one was surrounded by strange creatures. The title was a long, convoluted string of characters that made no sense. I stared at the cover for a moment before tossing it over my shoulder. Nope. Absolutely not. Never heard of it, don't care about it. I continued digging through the collection, but everything was the same. Magical girl series, romance novels, fantasy dramas. None of it caught my interest. Seriously, where's the real stuff? I shouted to myself. No Bleach. No Naruto. No Jujutsu Kaisen. Not even One Piece. I threw my hands up in exasperation. Whoever lived here before me had zero taste. And don't even get me started on the figurines. They're all magical girl collectibles, too. Sighing, I leaned back against the wall. You know what? Forget it. I'll figure out what to do with this stuff later. Maybe I can take it all to a bookstore and exchange it for something better. Or sell it and get some extra yen. For now, though, I decided to relax. It had been a long couple of days, and I deserved a break. Grabbing the remote, I plopped down on the couch and turned on the TV. Moments later, I found myself laughing uncontrollably at a bizarre show. What is this show? I burst out laughing, tears streaming from my eyes. This is only the first episode, and we're already going full bizarre. Who thought this was a good idea? The show itself made no sense, and yet, somehow, I was hooked. It was ridiculous and downright strange, but I couldn't stop watching. Still, I had to admit, the opening song was catchy. As much as I was enjoying this nonsense, a sudden thought hit me. You know what? I'm in a brand new country. Why waste my time holed up in my apartment binge-watching strange anime when I could be out there meeting new people? I stood up, stretched, and looked around the room. It's time to stop being a shut-in and be social for once. I've only got 5 months here, and if I fail at Kuoh Academy, it's straight back home for me. Might as well make the most of it. I walked to the door, hesitating for a moment as I glanced at the neighboring apartment door labeled unit. All right, I muttered, taking a deep breath. Please, let my neighbor be normal. Just someone. I raised my fist and knocked on the door. It slowly creaked open, and I put on my best friendly smile. Hi there. My name's Zayn 𝕯𝖊𝖉𝖚𝖚. I just moved in next door, and I wanted to say, I stopped mid-sentence, my words freezing in my throat as my eyes widened in disbelief. Standing before me was a woman with a kind, gentle smile, but her appearance was anything but ordinary. Her arms were covered in a chitin-like material, resembling the segmented limbs of an insect. 2 claw-like appendages sprouted from her back, moving subtly as if they had a mind of their own. Small, horn-like antennae emerged from her forehead, twitching slightly. Despite her unusual features, there was something undeniably captivating about her. She wore a fitted blouse that hugged her figure. My eyes immediately betrayed me, flicking downward for a split second before I yanked them back up, my face flushing. Well, hello there. You must be the new neighbor who just moved in next door, she said, her voice soft and pleasant, completely at odds with her appearance. I blinked, my mind racing as I tried to process what I was seeing. What is going on? Are those arms? Insect legs? Is this some kind of costume? My entire body began trembling, and I instinctively took a step back, only to trip over my own feet and fall backward onto the floor. Are you all right? She asked, her smile fading into a look of concern. She stepped toward me, her clawed hands moving gracefully as she leaned slightly forward. My heart raced as her movements caught my attention. Why is that even moving? She extended one of her clawed hands. Here, let me help you up. Panic overtook me, and without a second thought, I scrambled to my feet and bolted for my apartment door. I slammed it shut behind me, leaning against it as my breaths came in short, panicked gasps. My mind raced, replaying the image of her insect-like appendages and, much to my embarrassment, her striking figure. That woman. She's not human. Her arms, her antennae, her claws. Why did I even notice that? I clutched my chest, trying to calm my breathing. As thoughts echoed in my mind, I realized, wait, is she one of those beings Irina mentioned? I forced myself to take a deep breath, my thoughts racing. You know what? Maybe I'm just imagining things. Yeah, that's gotta be it. It's probably some weird dream or hallucination from the jet lag. Strange beings don't exist. It's all in my head. Resolving to prove myself right, I straightened up and opened the door. All right, I muttered to myself. When I open this door, she won't be there. It's just my mind playing tricks on me. The moment the door opened, my eyes locked onto the very same woman standing in the hallway, her smile as warm and pleasant as before. I stumbled backward, landing on the floor. The woman tilted her head, her smile widening slightly as she stepped closer. Oh dear, you're absolutely terrified of me, aren't you? I can't blame you. It must be your first time seeing a demi-human like me. Demi-human. What the hell is a demi-human? Zayn's body trembled as she approached, her figure casting a shadow over him. Every step she took seemed to accentuate her features, and Zayn's mind screamed at him to run. But before he could move, she crouched down and gently cradled his head, pulling him into a warm embrace. Her hand patted his head softly and she whispered, "Oh, you poor thing. I'm so sorry for scaring you like that. You must be completely horrified." Zayn's eyes widened in shock as he felt his face pressed against her. Huh? What's going on? Why is my face here? God, why is this happening? Her warmth and gentle touch were oddly comforting, and before he realized it, his trembling hands slowly wrapped around her. She giggled softly, surprised but pleased by his reaction. "You're safe," she said soothingly. "I'm not going to hurt you." Zayn finally managed to pull himself away, standing up awkwardly. Who are you?" he stammered, his voice shaky. "And what the hell is a demi-human?" The woman stood as well, her smile never fading. "Oh, forgive me. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is 𝒮𝒽𝑜𝓁, and I'm a demi-human." "A demi-human," Zayn repeated, still trying to process everything. "Yes," 𝒮𝒽 said, motioning to her insect-like appendages. "I'm a hybrid, a mix between a human and an insect. That's why I have these unique features." She moved her arms and twitched her antennae as if to demonstrate. Zayn blinked, still flustered and unsure how to respond. Wait. How did you know my name? 𝒮𝒽 giggled again, covering her mouth with one of her hands. Silly boy, you already introduced yourself when you knocked on my door. Don't you remember? Zayn froze, his mind racing. His stomach let out a loud growl, and embarrassment washed over him. Oh CRP. I haven't eaten anything since I was on the plane. No wonder I'm starving. 𝒮𝒽 tilted her head and smiled sweetly. You must be really hungry, aren't you, Zayn? How about you come over to my apartment? I'll cook you a proper meal. Zayn blinked, shocked. Did she just invite him over to eat? He hesitated, nerves creeping up on him. Wait, are you sure? You don't really have to do that. I can just grab something myself, he said, laughing nervously. It wasn't often a stranger offered to make him food, and given her unique appearance, he wasn't entirely sure if he should trust her. 𝒮𝒽 shook her head gently, stepping closer. Oh, I insist. Think of it as me giving you a warm welcome as the new neighbor. Besides. She leaned forward slightly, her face inches from his. I think it's a good opportunity for us to get to know each other better, don't you agree? Zayn gulped, his mind racing. What should he do? She seemed nice, but her appearance still made him uneasy. Yet she was smiling at him, and he found her oddly attractive. Finally he sighed. All right, Zayn, man up. Food is food. He looked up at 𝒮𝒽, nodding reluctantly. Alright, sure. I'll take you up on the offer. 𝒮𝒽's smile widened with satisfaction, and she let out a soft giggle. Splendid. I promise you won't regret it. Before he could react, she gently grabbed his hand, her fingers surprisingly soft against his skin. Zayn stiffened, his face flushing from the unexpected contact. As the minutes passed, Zayn sat in 𝒮𝒽's living room, still adjusting to the idea that his next-door neighbor was a demi-human with insect features. Her strange appendages and twitching antennae still made him nervous, but he couldn't deny that she was surprisingly kind and welcoming. Despite his initial fear, Zayn found himself easing into the conversation. There was something comforting about 𝒮𝒽's presence, something disarming. Her voice had a soothing, melodic quality, and she spoke with a calmness that made him feel safe. 𝒮𝒽 sat across from him, her violet eyes twinkling with curiosity. So, tell me, Zayn, what kind of food do you enjoy? I love cooking, and I'd be happy to make something for you, but I'm not too familiar with what regular humans eat. She giggled softly, her antennae twitching in amusement. Zayn glanced down at his empty coffee cup, feeling the weight of his hunger gnawing at him. Well, it's not like I'm gonna turn down free food. Especially since I haven't eaten since the plane ride. He thought to himself. Well, I'm not too picky, he admitted. I like a lot of things, just no seafood. And, I'm not exactly a big fan of vegetables either. 𝒮𝒽's eyes lit up with delight, her antennae wiggling excitedly. Oh, is that so? That's perfect. I can make something delightful. How about scrambled eggs with bread and butter? Maybe some oatmeal too. It's simple but filling. Does that sound good to you? Zayn hesitated for a moment, but his stomach answered for him with a loud growl. Embarrassed, he scratched the back of his head and chuckled nervously. Yeah, that sounds great. I'd really appreciate it. 𝒮𝒽's smile widened, her cheeks glowing with excitement. Splendid. I'll get started right away. She stood up gracefully, her long legs moving effortlessly as she made her way toward the kitchen. As she moved, Zayn's gaze unintentionally drifted downward, catching sight of her swaying hips. He quickly snapped his head up, his face turning crimson. Damn it, Zayn. Stop being a creep. But no matter how hard he tried to focus on anything else, his eyes kept betraying him. When she leaned over the kitchen counter to grab some ingredients, he felt his heart race. Oh God! Just look away. Look away. He screamed internally, squeezing his eyes shut. But curiosity got the better of him, and before he knew it, his gaze flicked back toward her. 𝒮𝒽 glanced over her shoulder, catching Zayn staring. Her lips curled into a playful smile. Something on your mind, Zayn? Nothing at all. He stammered, waving his hands defensively. I was just admiring your kitchen. It's really nice. 𝒮𝒽 giggled, her antennae twitching with amusement. You're quite the charmer, aren't you? Zayn groaned internally. I'm dead. I'm so dead. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, 𝒮𝒽 hummed softly to herself as she cracked a few eggs into a bowl, her antennae twitching rhythmically to the tune in her head. As she whisked the eggs, she glanced back toward Zayn, who was still sitting awkwardly at the table, fidgeting with his coffee cup. He's adorable, she thought with a smile. So nervous and shy. It's refreshing to meet someone so genuine. As she poured the eggs into a pan, the sound of sizzling filled the air. The warm, inviting aroma of cooking eggs wafted through the apartment, making Zayn's stomach growl once more. 𝒮𝒽 chuckled softly, her red eyes twinkling. With amusement. You really are hungry, aren't you? Zayn nodded sheepishly. Yeah. I guess I didn't realize how hungry I was. Don't worry, 𝒮𝒽 said warmly. I'll take good care of you. Her words sent an unexpected shiver down Zayn's spine. There was something about the way she said it, so soft, so gentle, that made his heart race. He glanced away, trying to hide the blush creeping up his neck. A few moments later, 𝒮𝒽 placed a plate of scrambled eggs, buttered bread, and a small bowl of oatmeal in front of Zayn. The food looked simple, but the presentation was elegant, with a touch of artistic flair that made it look like something out of a fancy cafe. Here you go, she said with a smile, setting down a fresh cup of coffee as well. I hope it's to your liking. Zayn's eyes widened in surprise. Wow. This looks amazing. Thank you so much. 𝒮𝒽 sat across from him, resting her chin on her hand as she watched him take his first bite. Her violet eyes sparkled with curiosity and amusement as she observed his reaction. Zayn took a bite of the eggs, his eyes widening in delight. Oh, this is really good. I'm glad you like it, 𝒮𝒽 said softly. It makes me happy to see you enjoying it. As they ate, the conversation flowed naturally. Zayn found himself relaxing more and more, the initial awkwardness fading away. 𝒮𝒽 was easy to talk to, her presence warm and inviting. So, 𝒮𝒽 began, her voice teasing, have you made any friends yet? Or am I the first person you've met here? Zayn chuckled, shaking his head. Actually, you're the third. I met two girls on the train, Irina and Zenobia. They were really nice. 𝒮𝒽's antennae twitched with interest. Oh. And did they make a good impression on you? Zayn hesitated, his face heating up as he remembered the kiss Zenobia had given him. You could say that. 𝒮𝒽 giggled, leaning forward slightly. Her blouse dipped, and Zayn quickly looked away, his face burning red. You're blushing again, 𝒮𝒽 teased, her voice playful. You're adorable when you're flustered. I'm not blushing. Zayn protested, covering his face with his hands. 𝒮𝒽 leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a soft whisper. You know, Zayn, I find you very interesting. Zayn's heart skipped a beat. Interesting. How so? 𝒮𝒽's smile widened, her eyes glinting with a mysterious light. You're different from anyone I've ever met. There's something special about you. Zayn blinked in surprise. Special? What do you mean? 𝒮𝒽's expression softened, and for a moment, a flicker of sadness crossed her face. I can't quite explain it, but I feel like fate brought you here for a reason. Zayn felt a strange sense of déjà vu, the words echoing in his mind. Fate. Destiny. What is going on? Before he could dwell on it further, 𝒮𝒽 reached out and gently placed her hand on top of his. Her touch was warm and comforting, and Zayn felt his nerves calm slightly. Whatever happens, 𝒮𝒽 said softly, I hope we can be good neighbors. And maybe even friends. Zayn smiled shyly, his heart fluttering. Yeah, I'd like that. Oh yes, I need to ask you one thing, 𝒮𝒽 said, leaning forward slightly, catching Zayn's attention. Her antennae twitched with curiosity. You're quite fluent in Japanese. How did you even learn to speak it so well? Zayn chuckled nervously, scratching the back of his head. Oh yeah, about that. I've been watching anime since I was really young. Over time, I just kind of picked up on the language. By the time I got older, I could understand most of it without needing subtitles. But I'm still working on reading and writing Japanese. That part's still tricky. 𝒮𝒽 gasped, her eyes lighting up with excitement. Oh, you learned Japanese from watching anime. That's amazing. I've never met anyone who managed to pick up a language just by watching anime. So, tell me, Zayn, what's your favorite anime? And do you read manga? She leaned in closer, her violet eyes sparkling with genuine interest. Zayn couldn't help but feel flustered by how close she was. Yeah, I like the popular ones. You know, stuff like Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, the usual shounen stuff. He chuckled awkwardly. And yeah, I read manga every now and then. Not as much as I used to, though. 𝒮𝒽 tilted her head, her curiosity deepening. Oh, so you must be into shounen anime. That's quite interesting. She gave a playful smile. Personally, I prefer darker stories. Like Tokyo Ghoul, though I do prefer the manga version. Zayn tensed slightly, a shiver running down his spine. Oh really? Tokyo Ghoul? That's cool. Because he tried to keep his tone casual, but he couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. 𝒮𝒽 noticed his reaction and giggled softly, covering her mouth with one of her clawed hands. Don't worry, I'm not going to eat you, Zayn, she teased, her tone playful but carrying a hint of mischief. Zayn let out a nervous laugh, rubbing the back of his neck. Ha! Right, of course not. 𝒮𝒽's eyes narrowed slightly, a sly smile playing on her lips. And I also really liked that one anime. What's it called again? The one with the giant people eating humans. And the soldiers have to fight them to survive. Zayn blinked, his nervousness melting into confusion. Wait, are you talking about Attack on Titan? 𝒮𝒽 clapped her hands together, her smile brightening. Yes, that's the one. Thank you for reminding me. I really enjoyed that series. It was quite thrilling. She leaned forward again, resting her chin on her hand. Oh, and please just call me 𝒮𝒽. There's no need to be so formal. Zayn gave a shy smile, nodding. Oh, 𝒮𝒽 it is. There was a brief moment of silence before 𝒮𝒽's gaze grew more curious. And you said you liked Demon Slayer, right? She asked, tilting her head. Yeah, I really like Demon Slayer, Zayn replied, his smile growing. I'm excited for the new season to come out. The animation is just top tier. 𝒮𝒽's expression shifted slightly. Speaking of Demon Slayer, she murmured, you look familiar. Zayn blinked, his smile fading into confusion. Familiar? What do you mean? Who do I look like? 𝒮𝒽's eyes lingered on him for a moment longer before she shook her head, her smile returning. Oh, it's nothing. Forget what I said. Zayn narrowed his eyes slightly, tilting his head. Wait, are you sure? Who do I look like? 𝒮𝒽 giggled, waving off his concern. Don't worry about it, Zayn. It's just a passing thought. She sipped her coffee, her smile never fading. Besides, I'm more interested in getting to know you, not who you remind me of. Zayn felt his face heat up again. There was something about the way she said that, so casual, yet so inviting. Before he could press further, 𝒮𝒽 stood up, stretching her arms above her head. Zayn's gaze flickered downward for a split second before he quickly looked away, his face burning red. Well, since you're staying here for a while, 𝒮𝒽 said playfully, I think we're going to have plenty of time to get to know each other better. Don't you agree, Zayn? Zayn swallowed hard, nodding. Why, definitely. 𝒮𝒽 smiled warmly, her antennae twitching with amusement. Good. I'm looking forward to it. As she turned to head back into the kitchen, Zayn couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. Listen, just keep it together. She's just being friendly. Don't read too much into it. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to 𝒮𝒽 than she was letting on. That mysterious comment about him looking familiar lingered in the back of his mind like a nagging thought he couldn't quite ignore. What's her deal? He muttered to himself, taking another sip of his coffee. And why do I feel like this is just the beginning of something unusual? In the kitchen, 𝒮𝒽 glanced over her shoulder, her eyes glinting with curiosity as she watched Zayn from afar. Her smile deepened, a hint of mischief playing at the corners of her lips. Zayn, she whispered to herself, her voice soft but filled with intrigue. I have a feeling you're going to be very interesting. Zayn stood from his seat, stretching his arms as he glanced toward 𝒮𝒽, who was tidying up the table after their little chat. His stomach was full from the meal she prepared, And despite the oddity of the situation, her unique features, her mysterious nature, he couldn't deny that it had been. It was the first time since he'd arrived in Japan that he felt somewhat at ease. He struggled to find the right words. Well, I guess I should get going. Thank you so much for the food, 𝒮𝒃. Seriously, it was amazing. He gave her a polite smile, feeling a bit awkward but genuinely grateful. 𝒮𝒃 turned to him, her antennae twitching as she gave him a warm smile. Oh, you're leaving already? There was a hint of disappointment in her voice, though she quickly masked it with her usual playful demeanor. I was hoping we could chat a little more. But I'm glad you enjoyed the meal. He nodded, rubbing the back of his neck. Yeah, I really did. Thanks for being so welcoming. I was honestly a bit nervous about meeting my neighbors, but you've been really kind. He chuckled nervously. Even if you did scare me at first. 𝒮𝒃 giggled, covering her mouth with one of her clawed hands. I apologize for that. I suppose my appearance can be intimidating, but I'm glad you're feeling more comfortable now. She stepped closer, her red eyes locking onto his. And Zayn? Yeah. He blinked, his heart skipping a beat as she closed the distance between them. She leaned in slightly, tilting her head with a teasing smile. I really do hope we can see each other more often. After all, we're neighbors now. And it's always nice to have someone interesting nearby. Her voice was soft, and he could feel his cheeks heating up again. He swallowed hard, trying to keep his composure. Yeah, I'd like that too. He gave her a shy smile. It's good to know someone around here. 𝒮𝒃's smile grew wider, her antennae twitching with excitement. Good. I'm glad to hear that. She stepped back, giving him some space. Now, don't be a stranger. If you ever need anything, or if you get hungry again, you know where to find me. He nodded, heading toward the door. Thanks again, 𝒮𝒃. Really. I appreciate it. He opened the door, glancing back at her one last time. I'm glad we met. She gave him a small wave, her smile lingering. Likewise, Zayn. Take care. As he stepped out of her apartment and closed the door behind him, he let out a long sigh of relief. His heart was still racing, and his mind was spinning with everything that had happened. The strange encounter, her unique appearance, the kindness she'd shown him. It was a lot to process. A few moments had passed since Zayn left 𝒮𝒃's apartment. He walked down the hallway toward his unit, his thoughts still swirling about his neighbor. As he unlocked his door and stepped inside, Zayn let out a sigh of relief. Oh, that was definitely something. He ran a hand through his hair, trying to process everything. 𝒮𝒃, the demi-human, is definitely unique. Zayn flopped onto the couch, staring at the ceiling as his thoughts drifted back to the moment she had cradled his head against her. The memory sent a fresh wave of warmth to his face, and he groaned, covering his face with his hands. Why did I have to react like that? He muttered to himself. His mind replayed the scene, the warmth of her embrace, the way her arms wrapped around him, the scent of her perfume, a mix of floral and something sweet. Meanwhile, back in 𝒮𝒃's apartment, she stood by the window, watching the street below with a thoughtful expression. Her clawed arms rested gently on her hips, and her antennae twitched as she recalled her interaction with Zayn. Her smile softened as she remembered the way he had looked at her. His wide, innocent eyes filled with confusion and curiosity, his nervous stammering, the way he blushed every time their eyes met. He's so adorable, she murmured to herself, her cheeks flushing slightly. She leaned against the window, her hands pressing lightly against the glass. So innocent, so sweet, and so easy to fluster. Her red eyes gleamed with a possessive glint as she traced a finger along the windowpane. Her gaze shifted to the coffee cup he had used, still sitting on the table. She walked over to it, picking it up and holding it delicately in her clawed hands. 𝕁𝒊𝖆𝖉𝖚𝖚, she whispered softly, running her finger along the rim of the cup. You have no idea how irresistible you are, do you? She sat down on the couch, crossing her legs elegantly as she contemplated the future. Her antennas twitched again, a sign that her mind was racing with thoughts of Zayn. I wonder, she muttered to herself, a playful smirk curling her lips. Would he blush even more if I teased him a little? Her mind wandered back to how he had tried so hard not to stare at her, his eyes darting nervously every time she leaned in just a little too close. 𝒮𝒃𝒽 chuckled softly, pressing a hand to her chest. Poor boy couldn't even look me in the eyes without turning red. Her fingers traced the neckline of her dress, gently brushing against her collarbone. She could still feel the warmth of his head resting there from earlier, and the memory sent a shiver down her spine. He's so polite, so sweet, and completely clueless, she mused, her smile turning mischievous. I've never met anyone like him before. 𝒮𝒃𝒽 stood up and walked toward the door, placing a hand on it as if imagining Zayn standing on the other side. Her smile softened for a moment before her possessive side took over again. I want him, she whispered, her voice filled with determination. I want to keep him close. Protect him. Make him mine. Her antennae twitched again as she leaned against the door, her lips curling into a smirk. But how long will it take for you to realize it, Zayn? 𝒮𝒃𝒽's hand slid down the door, her claws tapping gently against the wood. Her heart fluttered at the thought of seeing him again, of hearing his voice, of making him blush with her teasing. She turned and walked back to the couch, picking up the coffee cup once more. Until then, she murmured, holding the cup close to her lips as if stealing a kiss. I'll be waiting, Zayn. Back in his apartment, Zayn sat on his couch, rubbing his face with both hands. I really need to get my act together, he muttered. She's just my neighbor. Nothing more. Nothing less. But despite his best efforts to push the thoughts aside, he couldn't stop thinking about her. The way she had smiled at him, the way her antennae twitched when she got excited, the way her eyes sparkled with curiosity. And, of course, the way she had embraced him unexpectedly. Why did I have to react like that? He groaned, flopping backward on the couch. He stared up at the ceiling, trying to calm his racing heart. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't shake the feeling that 𝒮𝒽 was someone he wouldn't forget anytime soon. Meanwhile, 𝒮𝒽 sat back on her couch, a content smile on her lips as she thought about Zayn. Her red eyes gleamed with a mix of curiosity and longing, her antennae twitching slightly. I'll see you again soon, Zayn, she whispered softly to herself. And when I do, I'll make sure you won't forget me. To be continued. Next chapter, Chapter 6, The Snow Maiden / Ukiana, Time Skip, 1 day later location. Apartment gym. Zayn's POV, come on, you got this. Just a few more reps to go, and it's all over. You need all the confidence you can get for tomorrow, your first day at Kout. 37. I grunted through gritted teeth, pushing my body to its absolute limit. Sweat dripped from my forehead, pooling onto the mat beneath me as I struggled through the last set of my grueling workout. I had been at it for almost 3 hours, hitting every muscle group I could think of: pulls, pushes, curls, crunches, cardio, anything to push myself to the next level. 50. I gasped, collapsing onto the cool, rubberized floor of the gym. My chest heaved as I lay sprawled out, arms spread wide, staring at the ceiling. Finally. Done. I breathed, feeling every muscle in my body protesting. I forced myself to sit up, beads of sweat rolling down my face. My entire body was on fire, but in a strangely satisfying way. I glanced around the gym, appreciating how empty it was, just me and an array of high-end equipment. The floor-to-ceiling windows provided an incredible view of the entire town, the skyline bathed in the soft afternoon glow. I really had to thank Miss Rika for this. Having an indoor gym on the top floor of the apartment complex was definitely a game-changer. No gym membership, no waiting for equipment, and best of all, no one to judge me for talking to myself. And since no one else is here, I can take my time with the equipment, I muttered to myself, wiping my face with a towel. The machines, the treadmill, the weights. It's all mine. I managed a tired smile, despite my aching muscles. All right, I think that's good enough for today. Leaving the gym, I made my way down the hallway, nodding politely to a few tenants. Some waved back, others simply passed me by. Either way, I didn't mind. I was feeling good, better than I had in a long time. Honestly, working out had pushed me to my limits, and while it was tough, it was exactly what I needed. If I was going to survive at Kuoh Academy, especially with its overwhelming female population, I needed every bit of confidence I could muster. Maybe, if I work hard enough, I might even get a handsome glow-up, I mused aloud, clenching my fist in determination. Just imagine if I actually got my own system, the ability to boost my stats, unlock crazy abilities, maybe even get taller. I shook my head, chuckling at my own fantasies. Oh yeah, I suddenly remembered as I stepped into the elevator, I wonder if my uniform has arrived. I glanced at my phone to check the tracking number I received a few days ago. The mail should have arrived by now, and I definitely need to make sure everything fit before the big day. As the elevator descended, another thought hit me, something important that I'd completely forgotten. DMN. I really need to get headphones. I groaned, running a hand through my damp hair. How did I forget something so crucial? Music was life, and I'd gone all this time without my precious noise-canceling sanctuary. I should have bought some before I left Boston. Maybe I'll head out later today and find an electronics store, I mumbled to myself, making a mental note. I could use a nice walk around the town anyway, a good way to get familiar with my new surroundings before school started. As the elevator doors opened, I stepped into the lobby, the cool air hitting my face and offering some relief from the sweat still clinging to me. I made my way toward the mailroom, passing a few residents who glanced my way but quickly went about their business. Once inside, I found my mailbox and retrieved a neatly packaged envelope. My heart pounded a little with excitement. Inside was my Kuoh Academy uniform. The crisp packaging held an aura of importance, like it was the key to a whole new chapter of my life. All right, I thought, inspecting the package. This is getting real now. All right, I got my uniform now. Time to head back upstairs, shower, and maybe take a walk outside, I thought to myself as I left the mailroom. I really need to get those headphones. And maybe I'll stumble across something interesting on the way. Who knows? I was feeling good about myself. Sure, I wasn't exactly thrilled about the whole school uniform thing. It's not really my style, but it's a new chapter, and I'm willing to give it a shot. As I walked through the hallway, something caught my attention. Up ahead, I saw a woman struggling with a heavy-looking box. She seemed tired, her movements sluggish and her posture slightly slumped from the weight. She had incredibly pale skin, icy blue eyes, and matching blue hair that shimmered faintly under the lights. Her tired expression told me she'd been at this for a while. For a moment, I hesitated. My entire body was screaming in pain from that workout earlier, and the thought of lifting anything right now sounded like torture. But then again, helping her might be a good way to meet someone new, and besides, it just felt like the right thing to do. I approached the woman with a steady voice. So, hey, do you need help with that? The woman flinched slightly, startled by my sudden approach. Her icy blue eyes widened in surprise as she turned to face me. She stumbled over her words, her voice soft as she tried to regain her composure. Well, thank you. But you don't really have to do that, she said nervously, her gaze dropping to the floor. I smiled warmly, trying to ease her nerves. Don't worry, I just wanted to help out, that's all, I said as I reached for the box. The moment I lifted it, my eyes widened in disbelief. This was really heavy. What was even in this box? Despite the pain shooting through my already sore muscles, I forced a smile. Okay, so, where do you want me to carry this? I asked, my voice strained as I adjusted my grip on the box. The woman hesitated before pointing toward the door leading outside the apartment complex. Well, you could carry it over there, she said, her voice still quiet but filled with gratitude. I realized just how far I'd have to carry the box. A little while later, I sat slumped in a chair back inside the apartment complex, completely exhausted. I was breathing heavily, beads of sweat dripping down my face as my arms hung limply at my sides. Every muscle in my body screamed in protest. I thought about how I really needed some water. Just as I was about to give up and crawl back to my apartment, a soft voice broke through my thoughts. Here you go. I looked up to see a woman standing in front of me, holding out a cold water bottle. Her icy blue eyes met mine for a brief moment before darting away nervously. I noticed you looked really exhausted, so I just wanted to give you this. she said shyly, her voice barely above a whisper. Thank you so much. I really needed this, I said with a grateful smile, taking the bottle from her hands. The woman nodded, her cheeks faintly tinged with pink. I'm Mifuyu Yukino, she introduced herself hesitantly, her hands fidgeting nervously as she avoided my gaze. I wanted to thank you for helping me. Well, it's nice to meet you, Yukino. My name's Zayn Elijah Beckles, I said, scratching the back of my head nervously. But don't worry about it, I'm glad I could help. I paused for a moment, then added, I just recently moved here from Boston like a day or two ago. Honestly, I've lost track of time with everything going on. Yukino tilted her head slightly, her icy blue eyes narrowing in confusion. Boston? What is that place? She asked softly, her voice so quiet it was almost like she didn't want to offend me by asking. I blinked in surprise, feeling a wave of awkwardness wash over me. Oof. Never heard of Boston. You know, like the Patriots, the Red Sox, the Salem witch trials, the Celtics. We're literally state champions. I said, trying to laugh it off even though my voice cracked slightly. Yukino blinked again, her pale cheeks turning a faint pink. I've never heard of it, she admitted, looking away nervously. I'm sorry if it's a famous place. I just don't know much about places outside Japan. Her voice was hesitant, almost apologetic. I scratched the back of my head, now feeling twice as awkward. It's okay. No need to apologize or anything. It's not like Boston's the center of the world or whatever. I laughed nervously, hoping to ease the tension. You know what? Forget I said anything. Thanks for the water. I really appreciate it. Just as I unscrewed the cap, a sharp cramp shot through my right hand, making me wince in pain. That hurts. I hissed, dropping the bottle as I clutched my hand. Yukino flinched, her blue eyes widening with concern. Are you okay? She asked timidly, her hands fidgeting as if she didn't know whether to reach out or not. I forced a weak smile, trying to brush it off. Why yeah, I'm fine. Just, I worked out earlier and I think I overdid it. My muscles are just screaming at me right now, I said, laughing nervously despite the pain. Yukino hesitated, her hands still clutched tightly in front of her. She glanced at my hand, then back at me before finally whispering, Would you let me take a look? I might be able to help. I blinked, caught off guard by her sudden offer. Sure I guess. I said, holding out my hand to her. Yukino reached out slowly, her delicate fingers brushing against mine as she gently took my hand. Her touch was cold, freezing even, but it wasn't uncomfortable. In fact, it was strangely soothing, like the chill was seeping into my skin and easing the pain in my muscles. There, Yukino said softly, releasing my hand after a few moments. That should feel better now. I flexed my fingers, my eyes widening in surprise as I realized the pain was almost completely gone. Wait, what? How did you do that? I asked, staring at her in disbelief. Yukino's pale cheeks turned a deeper shade of pink as she looked away, her fingers nervously playing with the hem of her dress. I just used a bit of my ability. Chilled the area to reduce the pain, she explained quietly, barely meeting my eyes. Your ability? I asked, tilting my head in confusion. What do you mean by that? She hesitated, clearly nervous, before finally whispering, I'm not exactly normal. I'm a Yukiana. I blinked, completely lost. A Yukiana? What's that? I asked, my curiosity piqued despite the awkwardness. Yukino shifted uncomfortably, her icy blue eyes darting to the floor. It means, I'm a yokai. You know, one of those mythical creatures, she said softly, her voice barely audible. I was born a Yukiana, so I can control and manipulate ice and frost. My jaw practically hit the floor. Wait, are you serious? I asked, my mind racing. You're saying yokai are? And you're one of them? She nodded shyly, her hands clutching her dress even tighter. Why yes? But please don't think I'm strange or scary, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I know I'm different, but I'm still just me. For a moment, I couldn't say anything. My brain was struggling to process the fact that I was standing in front of a literal yokai. But as I looked at her, her shy demeanor, her soft voice, her pale cheeks tinged with pink, I felt my heart skip a beat. It's so appealing. Like really appealing. I quickly shook my head, trying to snap myself out of it. Wait. So you can control ice and frost. Like for real? That's actually really cool, I said, my voice cracking slightly. Yukino blinked, her eyes widening in surprise. Really? Don't think it's weird? She asked, her voice filled with disbelief. I shook my head. No way. I mean, yeah, it's surprising, but it's also kind of amazing, I said honestly, scratching the back of my head. Thanks for helping me with my hand. I really appreciate it. Yukino looked down, a small, shy smile forming on her lips. Welcome, she said softly, her cheeks turning an even deeper shade of pink. There was a long pause between us, both of us too shy to say anything else. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, but it was charged with something unspoken. I don't know what came over me, but before I even realized it, I had stepped closer to her. Yukino, I said softly, catching her attention. She looked up at me, her icy blue eyes wide and curious. My heart was pounding in my chest, but I couldn't stop myself. Her cheeks turned bright red as she realized how close I was. Zayn, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Before I could lose my nerve, I blurted out, really appealing, you know that. Her eyes widened, and her entire face turned crimson as she looked away. Zayn, she stammered, clearly flustered. Seeing her reaction, I felt my own face heat up. Sorry. I didn't mean to make it weird or anything. I thought you should know, I said quickly, scratching the back of my head nervously. Yukino shook her head shyly, her voice barely above a whisper. It's okay. Thank you. So wait, you've never received compliments like this before? I asked, genuinely surprised. I couldn't believe no one had ever told her something kind like that. Just looking at her, it was clear she was shy and reserved, and maybe she wasn't used to much social interaction. A few hours later, I found myself at the Kout shopping mall, standing in front of an endless wall of manga. Shelves were stacked high with every legendary series I could think of: Dragon Ball Z, Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, Demon Slayer, Naruto, One Piece. All the heavy-hitting shonen classics were right in front of me. I couldn't help but grin. My inner nerd was thrilled. I had taken a bus to get to the mall, and honestly, totally worth it. And the best part, I had some extra cash to spend. I had sold all the books in my room to the cashier, so no more weird romantic fantasy novels or magical girl stories. I was getting at least 13,187 yen in exchange, which is like not bad if you think about it. I could definitely get something good or save it for something important later on. DMN. I really suck at making decisions. I was considering using part of the money to buy some wireless Bluetooth headphones that lasted almost 14 hours and had noise-canceling functions. This was definitely something I needed in my life. I started flipping through pages of Jujutsu Kaisen, admiring the amazing art and action scenes. I still plan to go to Shibuya one day, but for now, I have to focus on school. Maybe I can go there some weekend, I said to myself while getting lost in the manga. Suddenly, a soft, feminine voice pulled me back to reality. Hey, are you reading Jujutsu Kaisen? I turned my head and froze. Standing right next to me were 3 incredibly attractive girls. They were all wearing high school uniforms and were tall, easily 5 feet 11 inches or 6 feet 0 inches. I felt tiny next to them. 2 of them were blonde. One had short, slightly messy hair, while the other had hers tied up in a bun, and the third girl had long, light pink hair, sipping from a cup with a bored expression. I could feel my face heating up as I desperately tried to remain calm. Just chill, Zayn. Don't panic. Just play it cool. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to respond. Why? I was just, reading JJK. Nothing weird or anything. Just normal, totally chill manga reading, huh? The pink-haired girl exhaled through her nose, barely looking at me. You sound like a total dork, you know that, she muttered before taking another sip of her drink. Yeah, I know, I muttered in defeat. But to my surprise, the two blondes giggled. Ah, don't be so shy, the short-haired blonde said playfully. So tell us, who's your favorite character? She leaned in slightly, her golden eyes sparkling with curiosity. Desperate to focus, I blurted out. Sukuna. Yes. He's really overpowered, not to mention he sliced Gojo in half, so you know how strong he is. I laughed nervously. And, you know, Malevolent Shrine is one of the coolest domain expansions. The pink-haired girl rolled her eyes. Sukuna. Yeah, he's OP or whatever. Wow, really? Sukuna is so cool, the short-haired blonde teased, giggling. But personally, I'm more of a Yuta fan. He's amazing with his sword. Oh, have you seen J0? The blonde with the bun asked excitedly. It's such a good movie, don't you think? I blinked before nodding. Yeah, actually. It was the first anime movie I ever watched in theaters. Fire movie for sure. But my excitement faded as I sighed. I never got to finish it. Both blondes gasped. Wait, what? How come? Well, my dad made me leave early. My siblings had a birthday party, and since I was bored, I decided to watch a movie alone. But then my dad called and said we had to leave early, so I never got to see the final fight, I admitted, feeling foolish. The pink-haired girl looked slightly sympathetic. Wow, that SC case. And the final fight was the best part. She took another sip before casually adding, so, what's your name, anyway? Or are you too shy to say it? Oh. Yeah, sorry about that. I scratched the back of my head nervously. My name's Zayn. Or just Zay for short. I just moved here not too long ago, so yeah. Now I'm here, in a manga store, reading JJK. Like any normal person would. The short-haired blonde giggled again, leaning slightly closer. That's a really cute name. Actually, it sounds kind of adorable. She smiled sweetly, and before I could fully process what was happening, I felt flustered. Oh no. The short-haired blonde giggled at my reaction. Don't worry, we're just teasing you, Zay. I took a deep breath, exhaling slowly. Oh really? Grinning face was wet. I let out a nervous laugh, scratching my neck. The pink-haired girl, still sipping her drink, tilted her head slightly. Oh, anyway, what brings you here? Did you really move all this way just to read JJK? Wait, no, actually. I chuckled, waving my hands. I'm here for school. Nothing too crazy. I applied to Kuoh Academy back home, and now here I am, ready for my first day tomorrow. The moment I said that, all three girls froze. Their eyes widened, not in surprise, but something else. Something almost like shock. Kuoh Academy. The short-haired blonde repeated, staring at me with curiosity. That's an interesting choice. How did you even get in? I shrugged. Well, you see, I looked up a lot about the academy online, I admitted, rubbing the back of my head. To be honest, I still don't know how I got accepted. I literally just applied and then, boom, a month later, I got in. The ponytailed blonde smiled, but there was something off about it. Is that so? Well, I hope you have a great time there, she said smoothly. To be honest, I've always wanted to go there myself. Her words felt normal, but their reactions felt way too familiar. Now that I thought about it, everyone I had told so far had the same weird reaction. Zenobia and Irina exchanged strange looks when I mentioned it. Miss 𝒮𝒻𝒽𝒽 hesitated before responding, looking at me strangely. Even Tuka seemed a little too intrigued when she heard about it. And now these three. What is up with this school? But what brings you to the store in the first place? The short-haired blonde asked, leaning forward. Are you planning to buy any of these manga? Well, I'm still thinking about it, I said, undecided. I'm mostly just walking around, trying to find something to do. I already sold some books for extra yen, so I have some money to spend. The other blonde tilted her head. Oh really? What kind of books? Just some random romance novels and magical girl stuff I've never seen or heard of before. I couldn't care less about them, I said casually. One of them was even written by 𝕁𝒊𝖆𝖉𝖈, whoever that is. The second I said that name, the atmosphere changed. The three girls instantly froze, their expressions shifting from playful amusement to genuine shock. Their eyes widened like I had just said something insane. 𝕁𝒊𝖆𝖉𝖈. The pink-haired girl repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. She looked stunned. I haven't heard that name in a while. I blinked. What was with that reaction? First Kuoh Academy, and now 𝕁𝒊𝖆𝖉𝖈. Is something wrong? I asked, looking between them. You guys look really shocked. Is Kuoh a bad school or something? Is there some weird stuff happening there? And who exactly is 𝕁𝒊𝖆𝖈𝖉? Is she more than just a writer? The ponytailed blonde just shook her head with a small smile. No, it's nothing like that, she reassured me. Kuoh isn't bad, it's just an interesting school, to say the least. I've heard a lot of great things about it. The short-haired blonde nodded. And as for 𝕁𝒊, she's an amazing person. That answer felt vague. I frowned slightly. Something's not adding up. But before I could question them further, the short-haired blonde clapped her hands together. Well, anyway, we should get going, she said. But before we leave, Zayn, we actually wanted to ask you for something. I raised an eyebrow. Yeah, sure. What is it? The ponytailed blonde grinned. Can we take a picture with you? The three of us together. My eyes widened in shock. I had never taken a picture with anyone other than my family. The pink-haired girl tilted her head, smirking slightly. Oh, you don't want a picture with us? And no, it's not that. It's just... But... I asked, still flustered. Well, the short-haired blonde giggled, we just met you and you're new around here. Consider it a symbol of friendship. Her voice had a playful tone. Symbol of friendship. I swallowed hard, my heart racing. Alright, I guess. Let's take a photo. Together. If you want. The three girls grinned, pulling me in closer. I was not mentally prepared for this. The short-haired blonde pulled out her phone. Alright, Zayn, let's take a picture. Before I could react, the three girls huddled around me, closing the gap quickly. I could feel their presence, soft perfume, warm skin, and an undeniable tension. The short-haired blonde on my left leaned in close, practically squishing against my arm as she held up her phone. Her presence was overwhelming. The ponytailed blonde was on my right, casually resting her hand on my shoulder. As she leaned in, I felt her warmth against my arm. And then there was the pink-haired girl behind me, pressing her body against my back. I felt a wave of panic wash over me. Oh no. This was too much. I clenched my fists, trying to stay calm. I needed to think of something, anything, to distract myself. Dead puppies. Taxes. Grandma's feet. Algebra equations. Nothing was working. I could feel the situation escalating, and I had to regain control. Say, 𝒮𝒸𝒽𝑰𝑒, the short-haired blonde giggled. I forced a smile, my heart racing. 𝒮𝒽𝒽𝒻. Snap. She checked the picture and smirked. Oh, this came out so cute, she purred, turning her phone toward me. There I was, sandwiched between three gorgeous girls, all smiling playfully. Are you okay, Zayn? The ponytailed blonde asked, her lips close to my ear. Why, totally fine. I blurted out, my voice higher than usual. It's just, you know. I hesitated, my eyes darting back to the picture. Can I get your numbers? The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted it. The girls paused, and for a split second, I thought I had made a huge mistake. Then they giggled. Ah, how adorable, the short-haired blonde teased, leaning in closer. You're asking for our numbers. The ponytailed blonde chuckled, tracing circles on my shoulder. I like that. Usually, guys get too scared to ask. The pink-haired girl shrugged. Why not? Before I could process what was happening, the short-haired blonde grabbed my phone and started typing. There, she said, passing it to the ponytailed blonde, who did the same, then to the pink-haired girl. After a few taps, she handed it back to me. 3 new contacts added. Ika telephone receiver sparkling heart, Rika telephone receiver fire, Saya telephone receiver hot beverage. I stared at my screen in disbelief. I just got 3 numbers. From 3 amazing girls. In one day. Rika smirked, her fingers brushing against my hand playfully. It'd be a shame if we didn't. Saya rolled her eyes. Just don't be weird about it. Before I could thank them, Ika suddenly leaned in and kissed my cheek. Smooch. Before I could react, Rika did the same, pressing a quick, soft kiss against my other cheek. Smooch. My entire body froze. The warm sensation on my cheeks brought back a memory, Zenovia's kiss. Back on the train. The way her lips lightly pressed against my cheek before she left. My breath hitched. That moment felt real again. I instinctively touched my cheek, my heart pounding. Ika giggled, watching my flustered reaction. Ah, you're so cute when you blush, Zay. Rika smirked, her fingers brushing against my jaw. I hope you're not too overwhelmed. Saya, still sipping her drink, sighed. You two are such flirts. I was speechless. I'm saying that guy just achieved the impossible. Zayn had unknowingly become the center of attention, and as he walked away from the manga store, he felt a mix of exhilaration and confusion. He had just experienced something he never thought possible. 3 girls had shown interest in him, and he was eager to share the news with his family and friends. Meanwhile, the 3 boys in the corner were grappling with their own feelings of disbelief and envy. They had spent years dreaming of the kind of attention Zayn had received so effortlessly. Did you see that? He didn't even have to try, one of them muttered, still in shock. Yeah, it's like he just walked into their lives and stole the show, another replied, shaking his head in disbelief. As Zayn exited the store, he couldn't shake the feeling that something unusual was happening at Kuoh Academy. He resolved to find out more, but for now, he needed to clear his mind. Maybe an arcade will help, he thought, eager to distract himself from the whirlwind of emotions. Back in the store, the 3 boys continued to process what they had witnessed. They were left with a sense of defeat, realizing that their perceptions of what was possible had just been shattered. How could this happen? One of them asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The others exchanged glances, each grappling with their own feelings of inadequacy. They had always believed that charm and confidence were the keys to success, but Zayn had shown them a different reality, one that left them questioning everything they thought they knew. As Zayn made his way to the arcade, he felt a surge of confidence. He was ready to embrace whatever came next, unaware of the impact his presence had already made on those around him. He got the legendary triple blessing. 𝕁𝒃𝒽𝒻𝒃 let go of him and staggered backward, his whole world crumbling. That technique, the holy grail of all admirers. The one thing we've dedicated our entire lives to achieving. And he just got it for free. And yet, he did it with no effort. Bro, he was nervous. He was shy. He was stammering and looking away and rubbing the back of his head like a classic protagonist, and it worked. He just kept mumbling, thank you. Why, you're really nice. I don't really talk to girls much. And they ate that up. And they were giggling and smiling the whole time. Matsuda suddenly grabbed 𝕁𝒃𝒽𝒻𝒃 by the collar, shaking him. Do you understand what this means? 𝕁𝒃𝒽𝒻𝒃 snapped out of his shock, his voice weak. Matsuda's expression twisted in horror. It means he has charisma. Silence. The air turned ice cold. Issei's entire body went rigid. 𝕁𝒃𝒽𝒻𝒃 let go of his glasses, letting them slide off his face. Matsuda's hands trembled, his voice barely above a whisper. They're gonna chase him, bro. Issei's breathing became erratic. No, and 𝕁𝒃𝒽𝒻𝒃 suddenly let out a distressed wail. They're gonna throw themselves at him. He's a foreigner with exotic looks. Matsuda clawed at his own face, his eyes wild with madness. It's over for us. It's over. The brown-haired boy, Issei, fell to his knees. His hands trembled. His lips quivered, his eyes glossy with unshed tears. Three of the most stunning girls I've ever seen. And they're not even from our school. His voice wavered as he gritted his teeth. Sandwiched him between their divine presence. and then kissed him on the cheek, without even knowing him for a full hour. His voice suddenly turned into a scream. What kind of sick joke is this? I just saw some random foreigner getting everything I ever wanted. He slammed his fists into the ground, his entire body shaking with rage. I've dreamed this moment my whole life. I've studied the way of the Harem king. I've practiced, trained, suffered, waited for my time to shine. I've also studied every 𝕁𝒻𝒽𝖆𝖉𝖚 to ever exist. I've memorized every single trope, waiting for my turn. No. Some foreigner just walks in and steals it from me. Matsuda clenched his jaw, shaking his head. DMN. We've never even gotten a girl's number before. He shook his head. And he got three. In one day. 𝒮𝒽𝖃 adjusted his glasses, his expression filled with disbelief. Who is this guy? Matsuda suddenly grabbed Issei's collar, shaking him. It's not just about that, bro. Issei's head snapped up, his breathing ragged. WH. What do you mean? Matsuda's face was drenched in sweat, his hands trembling. Did you see the size of those girls? Silence. 𝒮𝒽𝖃 shoved his glasses up, his voice cold and calculated. Size D minim. Possibly Didi. Issei's eyes widened in sheer terror. Matsuda continued, his voice unsteady. And the way they pressed against him. They had the perfect jiggle ratio. It's almost as if they had the holy trinity of softness, perkiness, and weight. 𝒮𝒽𝖃 collapsed against the bookshelf, his hand covering his mouth. No way. No way. Issei was shaking uncontrollably, his hands gripping his face. Issei suddenly snapped. Who does he think he is? This is total unfairness. His entire body trembled with fury. I should have been me. Not him. It's not fair. Matsuda face-bombed, shaking his head. Bro, calm down before you get us banned from this place. No. I'm not calming down. Issei raged, his face red with jealousy. I just witnessed my dream come true, and it wasn't me who got it. But then, 𝒮𝒽𝖃 froze. His eyes widened. Didn't he just say he's going to Kout tomorrow? Matsuda and Issei both whipped around to face him. He's a foreign exchange student. The realization hit them all at once. Matsuda's expression darkened. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. It's gonna get worse, bro. Issei's eyes snapped to him, bloodshot. What do you mean? Matsuda grabbed his head, shaking violently. Bro, we go to Kuoh Academy, a school where 90% of the student body is thirsty for attention. His eyes bulged. And now they're gonna find out a foreign guy just transferred. 𝒮𝒽𝖃 suddenly fell to the ground, his entire body shaking uncontrollably. Bro, the older students. Issei, paralyzed in terror, jerked his head toward him. The what? 𝒮𝒽𝖃, with hollow eyes, whispered, he's gonna have older students. Classmates. Rich girls. Teachers. Nuns. Heavenly angels. Matsuda's face was a mask of horror. Kiba and Santiago were bad enough. But now we have to deal with a foreigner who is too shy to talk to girls. He's about to get the ultimate, high-level, multi-tiered, age-diverse HM before we even get our first kiss. They weren't just dealing with a random lucky guy. He was going to be their competition. Issei's body stiffened before a new kind of fury overtook him. Great. That's just great, so not only is he stealing all the girls, but he's going to our school too. His fist clenched, his face twisted into pure rage. I don't care who he is. I don't care where he came from. He's my rival now. I won't lose to a guy like him. His eyes burned with determination. I will become the Harem king. And no matter what it takes, one day, I'm gonna be surrounded by appealing girls. The entire store went silent. A librarian in the corner gasped in horror. A mother with her child slowly backed away. The cashier's eye twitched. Matsuda let out a long, tired sigh. Yeah, we're definitely getting banned from this place. 𝒮𝒽𝖃 nodded. Without a doubt. 𝕯𝖉𝖚 wasn't done. He had just found his ultimate rival, and Zayn had unknowingly made his worst enemy. Meanwhile, Zayn tore through the shopping center, weaving between shoppers, his heart pounding loudly in his ears. His face was still flushed from the whirlwind encounter with the three girls, the lingering warmth on his cheek making it almost impossible to think straight. His mind was in complete chaos, excitement, disbelief, and sheer panic all colliding at once. But where's the arcade? There's gotta be one around here somewhere. He muttered frantically, his eyes darting from store signs to neon lights, desperate for anything to distract himself. As he sprinted past a small cafe, two girls standing nearby suddenly froze. The moment Zayn passed them, a suffocating chill washed over them. A presence so cold, so ancient, it seemed to press down on their very souls. The shorter of the two, a petite girl with white hair and cat-like golden eyes, felt her stomach twist into knots. Her hands clenched into fists at her sides as an involuntary shudder ran through her entire body. "What was that?" Kaneko whispered, her voice so soft it was nearly drowned out by the bustling crowd. Beside her, the taller woman with long, flowing black hair and violet eyes brought a single finger to her lips, her signature teasing smile flickering, but only for a moment. Beneath her usual playful charm, there was a glimmer of something rare. Curiosity. And perhaps unease. 𝒮𝒸𝒽𝒽𝑜𝓁 giggle echoed faintly. "That was deliciously strange. I've never felt anything quite like it." Her eyes gleamed with intrigue, but a subtle crease formed in her brow. So dark, so ancient, and yet there's something human buried beneath it all. Kaneko's ears twitched slightly, her instincts flaring. It's a sacred gear. But there's something else. Something colder, older, like chaos itself. Her voice, usually so flat and indifferent, was lined with rare uncertainty. Akino's smile faltered, her fingers gently brushing her sleeve. "I agree. There's something very wrong about that boy. And if he really is human, then..." She trailed off, her mind spinning with possibilities. "Should we follow him?" Kaneko shook her head, her usual calm cracking just slightly. "I don't like this." Her voice was firm, but her eyes remained locked on the direction Zayn had gone, as if expecting that cold presence to return at any moment. Akino sighed, her playful demeanor returning, but only on the surface. "Then should we tell the president?" Kaneko gave a slow, reluctant nod. "Yeah. She needs to know. Something's wrong with that guy." The two girls turned, heading back toward their destination, but neither could shake the feeling that they had just brushed against something far greater and far darker than either of them had ever known. And somewhere in the distance, Zayn kept running, blissfully unaware of the ancient chaos that stirred inside him, and the eyes that were already watching.